Hi everyone and welcome back to Bonnie Astrology. Today we are doing the horoscopes for June 2024, the astrology of the month ahead and what it means for your zodiac sign. As always, if you do enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for regular astrology content. And if you want to follow me on any of my other socials, they are listed in the description. So the astrology for the month of June is, for the most part, quite easygoing. We have some really lovely aspects with Jupiter, which has recently entered Gemini, and this is the first Gemini season we have had in 12 years with Jupiter present in the sign, which means that there is likely some sort of blessing coming to not only the Gemini part of your chart, but potentially for all of us, the Gemini aspects of life. So whether that manifests as getting on better with your neighbours, getting involved in your local community, getting on better with your siblings, your aunts, your uncles, just feeling more interested in knowledge and information, studying something new, expanding the mind. Jupiter is sure to bring us some sort of blessing in June. And not only that, we have a very favourable new moon in Gemini conjunct Venus on the 6th of June, which brings a really positive, loving new beginning to the Gemini part of your chart. But this new moon has the potential for love in many forms. Gemini tends to bring us options. So whether that is that under this new moon you're attending a local barbecue with your neighbours and you're feeling the love, you're feeling the sense of community, whether it is that you're having a really loving conversation with someone, this new moon has a lot of potential for joy, pleasure, love and connection, which can only be, for the most part, a good thing. The square to Saturn means that there's a little bit of a cooler temperature surrounding this. So if you are connecting with someone, it's likely to be in a mental level. It's likely to be in a more intellectual, mental level, to have an intellectual rapport with somebody rather than sharing all of your feelings, because Saturn is in a water sign, which reduces the emotional component to it, and Gemini is an air sign, meaning that we're thinking with the mind rather than the heart. But this can be expressing your love in mental form. So whether that is writing a letter, sending a really nice text of gratitude, this new moon is still rooted in love. One of the biggest events of the month that we will feel through the first part of June is going to be Jupiter trining Pluto. This is quite a rare alignment that is happening, and it will still be felt under the new moon in Gemini. But with Jupiter expanding our minds, with it being in the sign of Gemini, and Pluto in Aquarius transforming our expectations and understanding of society, of the collective, of our relationships to other people, this may be a time when a change of mindset is everything. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And this particular aspect brings a lot of potential for transformation simply by transforming your thinking. With Pluto being in Aquarius, you may want to get involved in something humanitarian. You may want to be using your knowledge to help others. You may notice where you can actually make a difference based on perhaps your education, based on your wisdom, or based on your experience. And this might be a time when you really feel this altruistic sense of wanting to help others, or wanting to positively change your life in a way that perhaps you didn't think you could before. And while all of this is quite lovely, one of the things that is a little bit more challenging is the fact that Mars is entering Taurus. Mars tends to slow down a little bit in Taurus. It's not as direct, it's not as aggressive, it's not as impulsive as Mars being in Aries. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Just because a planet is thought not to perform well in a certain sign does not mean that it is invalid. In fact, Mars in Taurus can be a lovely time to slow down and smell the roses, to be present in the moment. A lot of the people I know that have Mars in Taurus, they find joy in being in the woods. They find joy in being in nature. They find joy in cooking. They really enjoy the simple things in life, and they really seek that divine connection to nature to feel energized. So this is actually a lovely time to do that, to really put your energy towards grounding yourself, to lay on the grass, to put your feet on the sand, to be really present. The trouble with Mars being in Taurus is that on the 11th of June, it is going to form a square with Pluto. And Mars and Pluto forming tense aspects in the sky tend to coincide with violence, conflict, war, aggression. And with Pluto in the mix, they have the potential to be quite devastating, to be quite significant in their impact, particularly when it comes to power struggles. So this is a very tricky day. You may notice things happening in the news that are rooted in violence, that are rooted in conflict. In your own life, it would not be a good day to start a conflict, to approach someone with an issue or a problem. It would be better to take a day to yourself, to stay centered, to stay grounded, and to avoid any kind of potential conflict. It would also be a better time to step away from a conflict rather than exacerbate it. It is quite a tense day. It's not necessarily pleasant. It's probably the worst day of June, if I'm being honest. And it is not a good day for confrontation in general. And even on the 12th, Mercury will be squaring Saturn. So communication is likely to be tense, frustrating. You may find that if you're trying to tackle or initiate something under the 11th and the 12th of June, it's not necessarily likely to go anywhere good. It's not likely to be productive. It's not likely to get you the results that you want, and it may actually cause a lot more problems. I will say, if you have anything in your chart at 0, 1 or 2 degrees of the fixed signs, this is a day to duck. This is a day to lay low. This is a day to be a little bit more incognito if you can be, to not put your head above the parapet, so to speak. Because you're already being impacted by Pluto, and Mars coming around can add a bit of an aggressive, confrontational tone that may not necessarily go in your favor. So that is the most intense day of June. A better day for communication is going to be the 14th, when we have the Sun-Mercury conjunction in Gemini. And this is a lovely time for getting the information that you need, getting the facts out there, having a solid conversation about the facts rather than feelings, rather than theories. It's more to do with the information that you need. A, B, C, D, that kind of thing. Bullet points, very clear, but it can be a day where communication just goes a little bit better. So if you are looking to approach someone for a conversation this month, that's a better time to do it rather than around the time of Mercury squaring Saturn a few days prior. When Mercury is connecting with the Sun, you can often find that you get to the root of the energy. You can have a reset in conversations. Things tend to go a lot better because you have the information that you need, and so does the other person that you're speaking to. While the first half of June focuses a lot on lively conversation, intellectual discussion, it's a more social energy in the first half of June. The second half of June, from around the 17th onwards, we start to have the inner planets moving into Cancer, and we may become a little bit more family focused, inward looking. We may be wanting to spend a bit more time at home. Venus and Mercury both connect in Cancer on the 17th. They hold hands moving in together from Gemini into Cancer and shift the focus from a little bit more of an intellectual perspective, wanting to discuss the facts, wanting to discuss logic, into being a little bit more caring, nurturing, and wanting to feel our feelings. And the Sun enters Cancer on the 20th too, which makes it a little bit more emotional, a little bit more sentimental. People tend to find that they are a little bit more emotional during Cancer season. You're more likely to want to tend to your feelings. You're more likely to want to tend to your family or tend to the home. With Venus going through Cancer, it could be a really nice time to add some finishing touches to your home. It's good for home decor. It's good for family events, particularly once the Sun enters there as well. Now, we do have a full moon in Capricorn happening this month, and pay attention to this because it is at 1 degrees of Capricorn. Next month in July, we have a full moon at 29 degrees of Capricorn, which means that you may notice that your Capricorn part of your chart is getting a lot of attention. And Capricorn tends to represent our governments, it represents world leaders, so there can be some significant changes happening there over the next month, because next month, with the moon being at the anaretic degree of Capricorn, which Pluto will be going back to in September until November. Obviously, the US elections are in November. There can be some information comes to light about leaders, about government, some exposure. It might not necessarily be the most obvious, particularly in June, because there is a square to Neptune, which sort of muddies the waters and causes a bit of confusion. Now, speaking of Neptune, Neptune is going to go retrograde in July at the anaretic degree, and obviously we'll talk about that when it occurs. But for the whole of June, Neptune is going to be at the critical degree of Pisces, at 29 degrees of Pisces. And this means that particularly as Mercury, Venus, the Sun form squares to Neptune at this angle, at this degree, we may not necessarily have all the information that we need. And it can be quite difficult to know if it is your intuition or your delusion this month. The best thing to do, particularly in the first half of the month, is to focus on the facts, the information at hand. Obviously, that's not to say you should disregard your intuition at all, But with Neptune being at the critical degree, people can feel a sort of spiritual crisis. They can feel very confused, very lost. They're not so sure about their intuition. They're not so sure about their internal guidance system. Particularly as the Gemini placements square Neptune. It's like, is it fact or is it my imagination? There can be moments in June that are really very confusing. I want to point out that the 16th and the 17th and the 20th of this month could be quite confusing dates, and it's not a day to push again for information because you might not necessarily have all the information that you need. You could get something that seems to be very factual, but you have a gut feeling something's off about it. And you may be right, you may be wrong, but this month it can be quite difficult with Neptune at 29 degrees to trust our internal guidance system at times. Ironically, for some people, this can also mean that they're feeling more intuitive, more psychic, but it can lead to a little bit of doubt at the same time too. Saturn also goes retrograde on the 29th, and this brings forward a time of reevaluation and reassessment of our commitments, of our responsibilities, of our dedication, and also our boundaries, particularly in the Pisces part of your chart. So for example, if Pisces is your 4th house, you may be reassessing and reviewing your boundaries when it comes to family, when it comes to home renovations, home foundations. You might be rethinking the work that you're doing on your home. You might be rethinking the boundaries you have in place with your family. And with Saturn being retrograde, this is a period of review. So you're reflecting on the work that has been done, the boundaries that have been set, the restrictions that you've faced, and the responsibilities that you continue. You're reflecting on these. And it may be a case you realize sometimes with Saturn where you have become exceptionally restrictive to your own detriment. So that can look like you have thought you were setting up healthy boundaries, but you were actually isolating yourself from a place of avoidance. That can be where you have been working really hard on something, that something else has lost your attention. It can be that you realize that in order to progress, you need to work a little bit harder on something in your life as well. Basically, Saturn retrograde periods are great for reassessing and reevaluating our commitments, our responsibilities, and our boundaries. I want to point out a very special day in June, and that is June 4th. Mercury will be conjunct Jupiter and the Sun will be conjunct Venus. Both the benefics are at play in the Gemini part of your chart, so there might be something very positive manifesting there. It is also possible that you're getting the information that you need to expand on something, to proceed with something. It can be a day of really good news. It could be a day of really expanding your mindset. It can also be a day that's great for love. It's great for relationships. There could be something where you feel very loved, you feel very appreciated, possibly for your mind, possibly for your intellect, possibly your connections with neighbours, with siblings, with extended family are all positively highlighted under this time. You may find that this is a day where people are really optimistic, really outgoing, really feeling the love and really feeling the chatter. It is also a day with significant potential for gossip where it can really escalate with Mercury conjunct Jupiter, so just be mindful of that. Some of the information that is out there may actually be a little bit inflated. So I'm going to pull a tarot card for June just to give an overall energy read and see what tarot... Two of Cups. Very cute. And we have underneath, well, 2 cards fell out. We have the 6 of Swords and the 4 of Cups. So the 2 of Cups is all about connection. It's about relationships. I'm dropping all my cards. It's about relationships. It's about connection. It's about seeing eye to eye with somebody. This is very likely to be around the new moon in Gemini conjunct Venus. A lot of new relationships can start. A lot of new connections can begin with a new moon conjunct Venus. And it really is a nice month with the Sun-Venus conjunction as well to connect with other people. You may really find around this time that connections come a little bit more naturally, a little bit easier. It can be easier to see eye to eye. Obviously with the Mars-Pluto square in the 11th, not so much. But this month in general has a lot of potential for love and connection with other people. With the 4 of Cups and the 6 of Swords, you may realize in your life where you are willing to heal from a rejection, or you're willing to heal from some sort of no. Perhaps redirection was God's protection in some case, and you're learning that in June. Maybe around the Venus Saturn square on the 8th, where it can feel a little bit at times as though relationships are sources of tension, or you may be reminiscing on something from the past that made you feel rejected. It can also be where you're letting go of missed opportunities in your life. But for the most part, with the Two of Cups being the overall energy for June, this is a lovely time to focus on connections, focus on relationships, and focus on finding common ground between you and another person with the Two of Cups. It can be a lovely month for relationships and connections. So that is what I have for June. Timestamps are listed below for all the individual horoscopes, and I hope you have a beautiful month. Bye. Hi Gemini, welcome to June 2024. Gemini, this is your birthday month if you're a Gemini sun. A very happy birthday to those of you celebrating in June. But whether you're Gemini sun, moon, or rising, you're going to be feeling the really positive energy of Jupiter blessing you, because Jupiter has not been in Gemini in 12 years, and Jupiter coming into your sign means that you can find yourself feeling a little bit more adventurous. The first house is all about our approach to life, how we engage with the world. And for you, you're going to be feeling more adventurous, more open, more hopeful, more optimistic in many ways, and more expansive. You're just going to have a more optimistic, hopeful, adventurous attitude towards life in general. And this means that you're probably going to want to take a trip with the Jupiter trine to Pluto on the 2nd of June. Maybe you're planning a trip abroad, maybe you're planning an adventure, maybe some of you are inspired to take a solo trip with Jupiter in your first house. But it is worth mentioning Jupiter rules your relationship, so maybe this is with a partner or a best friend. But you could be going somewhere where you really feel like you can learn something. You're not necessarily just going to Ibiza to boogie. You're maybe feeling more inclined to go on a trip to Greece to see Athens, for example, to learn about the history. Or you're wanting to go to, say you went to Boston, you're wanting to go to Salem and learn about the history of the witch trials or something like that. You're more interested in going places where you can learn. And if it's not about the history, it might be about different philosophies. You might want to learn more about spirituality. You might find yourself more open-minded to different spiritual practices, different religious beliefs, more curious in general about the higher meaning of it all. The 9th house, where Pluto is, for you is the place of God. So you might feel more spiritually connected or more spiritually open. And some of you may even be deciding to teach others your wisdom. So maybe you're traveling to a different country to teach your native language, or maybe you're wanting to learn another language. Gemini, that's entirely possible too. But it's also possible this month that you're going to be changing up your image. So for a lot of you, this could be some sort of makeover coming for you with this really beautiful new moon in your sign in the 6th conjunct Venus. This is a wonderful time for your image. You might be getting a haircut, finding a hairdresser that really knows how to cut your hair to suit your face shape, or color your hair to suit your skin tone. You could be getting your colors done so you know what color season you are, and buying a new wardrobe to fit your sub-season. You can tell I've been watching these videos religiously on Instagram, but you might be finding that you're just improving your aesthetic and feeling more confident. Some of you might be deciding, with Jupiter being in your first house now, that you're going to go for a Western aesthetic, or you're wanting to buy a new pair of cowboy boots. Or you might find that you're going for a more bohemian style, or perhaps you're just finding that if you're traveling, you're picking up clothes that really flatter you. The new moon being conjunct Venus is a really positive time, Gemini, for any kind of makeover. So if you're looking to book a haircut or some sort of treatment, around the 6th is probably the best time to do it. The new moons can be felt in the 3.5 days prior and after. Some people even say that it's the full week before and after. So the closer you are to the 6th of June, the better the results. But it's a good time to buy yourself new clothes, new shoes, new jewelry, anything like that for your aesthetic, Gemini. And it is also a time when you might just be feeling a little bit more romantic in your approach to life, maybe wanting to do more enjoyable things, more pleasurable things, eating good food, drinking good wine, that kind of thing, with Venus being there. And you might just be feeling more self-confident as well. With Venus and Jupiter both being in your sign, at least until the 17th when Venus enters your second house, and then it's going to bless you financially. So Venus going through the second for you can be a really good time for being more attractive to money, being more attractive to gifts. People want to give you things, people want to shower you with presents. And you can also find under this particular transit that you are feeling more focused on what it is that you truly value, what it is that you truly want. Your ruler Mercury also goes into your second house on the 17th, which adds this bit of emphasis that you're really investing your time and your money into making more money. You know, you're thinking about your assets, you're thinking about what you have and what it is that you want. And with Venus and Mercury both there conjunct on the 17th in your second house, this can be a really positive new chapter for you financially. This can be a new time. Maybe you're using your skills, maybe you're using your individual talents to make more money for yourself, or you have an idea on how to make more money, or you're just getting very clear on what it is that you want to do financially. You're setting up a savings account, you're maybe talking to people that are very financially aware and having conversations about money around that time. Gemini, that is possible as well. Mars enters your 12th house on the 9th and squares Pluto on the 11th. Now, this is kind of tricky, I won't lie. Mars-Pluto squares can be notoriously unpleasant. And with Mars in your 12th house squaring Pluto in your 9th, this feels like a time where there could be some sort of argument when it comes to belief systems, when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to spiritual practice. There could be a clash with you and another person. This could particularly be a friend of yours or someone that you work with, but there could be a bit of a clash. So be careful around the 11th because tensions can run high, people can be aggressive, but you don't know what's behind it. You know, with Pluto being there, try not to engage in conflict because there can be hidden aspects, particularly with Mars in the 12th house, there can be hidden aspects that you're just not prepared for. You don't know how quickly it could escalate or how deep it could go with Mars squaring Pluto. So just be mindful of that. This could also feel like a really bad dream or a spiritual. You could feel like you've got a psychic attack, or you could just feel like you're being, you could have a really bad nightmare, your sleep could be disturbed or something like that around the time of the 11th. So just watch out for that. That's the main trickiness with Mars there. As a whole, this transit with Mars in the 12th house, it can make you feel a little bit tired more easily. And you could feel a little bit run down at times. Mars going through the 12th house can make you more sleepy. It can make you more introverted. It can make you put yourself into isolation, especially because Mars rules a very social part of your chart. You might just not be feeling as social from the 9th. And, you know, that's okay. It's okay to take some time to yourself. It's okay to retreat for a while. It's okay to spend time in meditation, to spend time in prayer, or whatever it is that you want to do with that, particularly if it means that you're not getting yourself into great conflicts with people over issues of religion or what it all means, or the higher beliefs or the philosophy and that kind of thing. There could be some serious debating going on around that time. So be mindful that it really could escalate, and it's probably better to stay out of it. I will be honest, because even on the 12th, your ruler Mercury is squaring Saturn. Your ruler Mercury is very strong in your first house, which means that I feel you do have the words, you do have the information that you need if someone in a position of authority is challenging you, but it still feels kind of like it might not necessarily get the result that you want. There could be a clash with someone in a position of power, a position of authority, and with that particular aspect, you might just feel a little bit like you're right, but someone else is digging their heels in. In terms of communication, there's a really positive day on the 14th when your sun and your ruler connect at 24 degrees of your sign. It's the Cazimi. It can be a great day for conversations, for communications. If there has been any issues within the week prior, that's a great day to start it out and have a reset in terms of what it is that you're talking about. It can also be with the sun ruling your third house in general that there is some exciting news coming to you on the 14th, or you even have some exciting news to share, Gemini. There's a little bit of confusion in your work sector on the 16th and the 17th with Venus and then Mercury both squaring Neptune in your 10th house. Venus and Mercury will be in your sign at the anaretic degree during the square. So there is the opportunity for misunderstandings at that time. So whenever squares to Neptune come up, it's worth saying that you will either feel misunderstood or someone will feel misunderstood by you. Give it time and understand the way the stars are working, and that maybe something has not been said correctly or expressed correctly. Do a double check of the details, ask for clarity if you need to. There's a full moon in Capricorn on the 21st, and this is highlighting your financial axis. So with that full moon being the first of two, I might add, this is at 1 degrees of Capricorn. And then the next full moon, which is in July, is going to be 29 degrees of Capricorn. So we have two full moons coming up in your 8th house. And funnily enough, I don't know if you heard it, but my phone just vibrated with a notification from my bank about interest rates. And the 8th house is to do with other people's money, and this is, I say, your financial axis. So I feel for a lot of you, these two full moons may be times, especially with this one in particular, because it's forming oppositions to Venus and your ruler Mercury in your 2nd house. This can be an opportunity to clear out some debt, or perhaps you're getting a tax rebate, perhaps you're getting some sort of payment from a government body, or you're getting a mortgage, you're getting a loan or something like that. You're really focusing on your money with these full moons. It can shine a light on what you want to do next when it comes to a loan, when it comes to a mortgage. There can be information coming to light about these things. For some of you, that can be something as simple as saying your interest rate is changing or going up or going down. Some of you could get a tax rebate for money that you have made in the past. You know, with Mercury and Venus in your 2nd house, of the money you make opposite this full moon, maybe that money is actually coming back to you. It can also be that something's coming up or changing with your partner's money. And it can also just be at this time where it's sort of shining a light on baggage that you have. So if you're wanting to do a bit of shadow work, working through some stuff from the past, this full moon is a really good time to do that as well. It is squaring Neptune, so there's a little bit of confusion, and the more you tap into your intuition, the easier this full moon will be to handle. But it really looks like a time where your finances are being highlighted, in the sense that you're clearing out the old to bring in the new, Gemini. Because there will be a nice new moon in your financial sector of the money that you make in July. But because it's sandwiched between these two full moons in the 8th, clearing out debt, paying your debts, sorting out your tax payments. Maybe you have to pay your taxes around the time of these full moons. Maybe you're filing your taxes. Maybe there's something coming up with an inheritance under these full moons as well. That can also be a potential for you, Gemini. Now, in terms of your career, Saturn is going to go retrograde at the end of the month on the 29th in your career sector. So you've been working incredibly hard with your career, with your public image, with your professional profile. You've probably been very committed. You've been putting in a lot of work. There may have felt like restriction was in place here and there. You might have felt like things were very slow. This is a time to review your progress and really take some time to reflect and rethink how you're working, what your goals are, where you want them to go, what you're doing, and if it feels in alignment with your skills. With Saturn going through your 10th house, it can really be an important time to realign yourself with something you feel committed to professionally. It can be a time where you are more serious about your profession, about your public image, about your career. And you can certainly, with Saturn in your 10th house, get a lot of results there as well. You know, you can get a lot of recognition. So it's time to reflect on how these things are going, if you need to recommit, if you need to work a bit harder, or if you're maybe burning the candle at both ends, you need to work a bit less. This is a time to rethink and reevaluate your career and your public status, Gemini. That's something to think about. Now, one day that I really want to highlight to you, and I'm jumping back to the start of the month, but on the 4th of June, your ruler Mercury is conjunct Jupiter in your first house, and the Sun is conjunct Venus in your first house. Very blessed day. There may be some really positive news. You and a partner might have some positive news. They might have positive news for you. It could be a best friend, it could be a business relationship. Communication could feel very open, very adventurous, very exciting. There could just be some good news in general. You might have a lucky opportunity. This can also be linked to career because Jupiter rules your 10th house traditionally, but the Sun conjunct Venus, the fact that it's happening in your sign is really blessed when it comes to, just feeling in love with life. Feeling the love, feeling the joy, feeling the gifts, feeling the presents. There could absolutely be something very lucky and fortunate happens on the 4th of June for you, Gemini. Feels like really positive news. It feels like a really positive new beginning. If you're into manifestation or you like to write down your goals, do it on the 4th. You can do it on the 6th with the new moon in your sign, absolutely. The 4th is also a good time to put that positive energy out into the world, Gemini. That is what I have for you. I'll talk to you soon. Hi Cancer, welcome to June 2024. Hope you're doing really well. So Cancer, this is a month of new beginnings in many ways because Jupiter is now in Gemini. So this is a new beginning in the Gemini part of your chart. We have a new moon there conjunct Venus. We have Jupiter connecting with Mercury. We have the Sun connecting with Venus. There's a lot happening in our Gemini houses. For you, this is the 12th house. Now, the 12th house is more to do with endings than it is to do with new beginnings. But if you think about it, the two are intrinsically linked. So this is an opportunity in June to think about, what do you need to let go of in order to make room for something new? And that may sound frustrating in some ways because I think in a lot of cases we're told to let go, let go, let go, let go. But this may be a time when you figure out what that actually means for you. Does it mean surrendering to the process, trusting the process? Does it mean being more in meditation than usual? Does it mean being a little bit more passive here and there than usual? Jupiter going through the 12th house can be a time where we find more joy and we see the growth behind the scenes in moments of retreat and moments of isolation. So for some people, this can be a time when they get more involved in spiritual retreats. So actually taking a spiritual retreat, going to, whether it is a yoga retreat, whether it is a breathwork retreat, whether it is a shamanic journeying retreat, anything that has spiritual connotations when it comes to connecting you to your inner world and releasing trauma. Those are different ways people work on releasing trauma from the body, very somatic. And it can be that you're more interested or invested in these type of things, or you might notice that you're connecting more with people who want to do those things and you're going along with them and being in places of retreat and isolation. For some of you, this could be that you're renting a cabin in the woods just to get away from it all and to retreat a little bit from humanity here and there. But it can also be a really beautiful time of inner growth and inner healing where we expand our knowledge and therefore we're able to let go of things. So it's very common when Jupiter's going through the 12th house, someone takes up with a therapist or they learn about a certain type of healing practice that really works for them. And it actually releases a lot of pent up stuff that they weren't able to shift through any other way. So this can be a really positive time to connect to a healer, connect to a therapist, connect to a spiritual advisor, a psychological advisor. It tends to be when we get the best results, spiritually speaking, but also healing from a mental health perspective. And obviously these things are a process. There's not necessarily a specific end result or place, but this is a process that you may be going through where you're noticing most of your growth is happening internally or behind the scenes, and that the things you're working behind the scenes will bring you great fruit and great reward when Jupiter goes into your sign in June of 2025. So we have a new moon there in your 12th house on the 6th. It is conjunct Venus. This can be the 12th house sometimes to do with soulmates. So you might actually meet someone where you have this real deja vu, this sense of I've met them before, I know this person. It doesn't have to be a romantic soulmate, it can be platonic, it can be a teacher, it can be someone who's just there to guide you on your path. That you could notice in June someone comes into your life that feels like you've met them before. With Venus being in the 12th, it can connect us to those type of things. Can also be a time when you learn, particularly under the Venus Cazimi on the 4th, that potentially you have a secret admirer or someone who really admires you behind the scenes and may come forward or be revealed to you on June 4th. There is a Mercury-Jupiter conjunction in your 12th as well. You may have a very psychic dream, you might have a premonition, you might have a very vivid symbolic dream that is trying to teach you something or give you a message, Cancer. So do pay attention to your dreams this month. Particularly on the 2nd as well, when Jupiter forms a trine to Pluto in your 8th house. So we have this activation between the 12th and the 8th, which means that you could really do some very profound healing work and transformative work, particularly from a mental health or spiritual or soulful perspective. Cancer. This could be a time when you're really letting go of some fears, you're really healing some fears, you're working through some past baggage, some past trauma, and you're finding that maybe because of a spiritual advisor or a great therapist or whatever it is, the growth and the wisdom is helping you transform in a way that maybe feels very cathartic to you. With these happening in water sign based houses, they're happening in the air element, but these houses are water based for you. So you might notice under the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction early in June that you're finally able to heal from something, or you find a type of healing that really works for you, Cancer. Now I know that maybe sounds to some of you a bit meh, but Venus is entering your sign alongside Mercury on the 17th, and they are meeting at 0 degrees of your sign. The 17th, you are a magnet for miracles. You may find that you're attracting gifts, opportunities, romantic interests. You might find a style that really works for you around that time on the 17th. There's a new beginning there happening with Mercury and Venus connecting, that you may be able to speak things into existence. You might be receiving some sort of gift, some sort of blessing. You might notice you get a lot of compliments that day, a lot of admiration that day. People are really wanting to tell you how well you're looking, how great you're doing. You might just notice that there's a lot of love surrounding you that day and people want to tell you. Or you might just notice when you're running your errands that people are complimenting you or saying nice things about you, Cancer. And this could be particularly pleasant because it comes in the back of Venus and Mercury squaring Neptune at the anaretic degrees while they're in your 12th house. So you may find that you're sort of going through a process with those 2 days. You may be letting go of some fears, you may be letting go of some emotions, you're finding it impossible to communicate, impossible to think straight, you're not so sure how you feel, you're not so sure what's actually working for you, there's no clarity, particularly from a spiritual perspective, but also from, knowledge. Maybe you feel like you don't know anything, you're sort of going through the motions mentally. And then we have that beautiful Venus-Mercury connection where you think, oh, I get it, okay. And you choose your thoughts more lovingly, I would think. With that connection, with that Mercury-Venus connection in your first house, I feel like you might just start thinking differently. You might be thinking more loving thoughts. You might be thinking more romantic thoughts or more benefic thoughts. And you might also have some positive news coming your way, Cancer. Now, Mars is going to enter your 11th house on the 17th. On the 9th, sorry. Mars is going to enter your 11th house on the 9th. And this can be a time when you're putting a lot of energy into a cause. So if you're going to get into a conflict from the 9th of June, you might find that it's with a friend, you might find that it's with a team or a group, you might notice some drama in teams and groups that you're part of, but it can also be that perhaps you're in conflict with people when it comes to a humanitarian effort, a cause that you're very passionate about, you may find yourself more drawn or called to advocate for something, to be the change you want to see in the world, to take action towards these type of things. Cancer. Now, the trouble with this is that it gets off to a bit of a rocky start, and it's going to square Pluto, and it's going to square Pluto on the 11th, and Pluto is in your 8th house. So you might want to, around the 11th, be careful when it comes to conflict or advocacy, just because tension can really escalate out of nowhere, and someone that you challenge may be more powerful than you think, and the changes might not be what you hoped for. In fact, they may actually end up being kind of disastrous. So around the 11th, I would be very careful of getting into any kind of conflicts, especially when it comes to your friends, when it comes to teams that you're a part of, when it comes to causes. You just might notice irreparable damage being done that was genuinely just a heat of the moment thing. It's kind of an unpleasant day. If there's one day in June that's quite unpleasant, it's that. So just be mindful of that. It's a better time to avoid any kind of conflict and try and get away from anything like that, especially if it ends up damaging a friendship or a relationship with a team that you have in your life. Cancer. The Sun enters your sign on the 20th, which puts a lot of spotlight on you, especially because we have Mercury and Venus there. You may be feeling great when the Sun enters your sign. It's your season. It's a time for you to be in the spotlight. It's a time for you to be admired. It's a time for you to focus on what you want to put your energy towards in the upcoming year, the goals that you have, how you want to approach life, how you want to show up in the world. And then we have a full moon. It's the first of 2 full moons in your relationship sector. So with your relationship sector being highlighted by 2 full moons, there's something going on with your relationships, Cancer. And it might be a case that you are finding under this full moon in particular that is opposite Venus and Mercury in your sign, that maybe when it comes to your relationship, you're trying to focus and figure out your needs versus your partner's needs and how to bring harmony between them, or how to bring harmony in a conflict, or how to share with somebody. And there is a balancing act that's kind of going on here. This might be a time where as well you're making a relationship official, or you're taking the next step in a relationship. For some of you, you may be deciding to potentially walk away from a relationship if it's not serving you. But this is really to do with your one-on-one relationships. And you'll notice with this full moon that there will be a repetitive energy comes up in July, where if the change that you've hoped for has not taken place under this full moon, the second full moon may be the time to do it, because it will be the anaretic degree of Capricorn. And Pluto is going to be going over that degree again in September until November. So when it comes to your relationships and partnerships, pay attention to these full moons, because they're going to highlight very significant themes when it comes to a key relationship in your life, or your feelings and visions when it comes to your relationship that you want. Saturn is going to go retrograde on the 29th in Pisces, which is your 9th house of travel, of higher perspectives, of education. So you're reflecting on these areas and the hard work that you've been putting into these areas, Cancer. Whether that's been studying for exams, whether that has been working towards a degree, this may be a time where you're able to take it a bit easier. To maybe if you're in university, this is when you're wrapping up to go off for the summer, so you're not having to study as much. You may be rethinking your education perspective or trajectory, or when it comes to your belief systems, this might be a time when you're pondering these different types of topics. This could be a time when you're wanting to reevaluate what you believe in, maybe questioning your beliefs and your commitments there from time to time. It does no harm to question things from time to time, even if it's something that's very dear to you. It's good to make sure that you can see variations and consider all options, rather than, getting too strict about it because it can lead to dogma. So this might be a time when you're really focusing on reevaluating, maybe considering your perspective to your beliefs, and just chilling with the idea of it, just rethinking it and reevaluating your spiritual mission, should you feel that you have one, Cancer. And that is what I have for you. I hope you have a great month, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Leo, welcome to June 2024. Hope you're doing really well. So Leo, for a lot of us, this is a month of new beginnings because Jupiter is now in the Gemini part of our chart, and there's a really lovely new moon happening there on the 6th, which, although it is not conjunct Jupiter closely, it is conjunct Venus, and Jupiter has a co-presence, so there's likely to be a positive new beginning for you in your Gemini house. So for you, the Gemini house is the 11th house. And this is to do with community, friendship, teams, the networks and societies that you're part of, the communities that you're a part of. It can also be the causes that you advocate for, your humanitarian efforts. And it can just be different memberships and alliances that you have, and yeah, where you feel really connected to like-minded individuals. So with the new moon being there conjunct Venus, Leo, you may actually find that there is a new beginning there. So you could be joining a team, you could be joining a community, you could be making new friends or a new friend. You could really be connecting to someone or a group of people where there's a lot of love with Venus being there. It feels like there's a lot of love. It feels like there's a lot of mutual beneficial energy flowing between you and them. Maybe you're aspiring to something together that is rooted in love, that feels very fair and just. So particularly if you are, going for something new when it comes to advocacy or humanitarianism, you could potentially feel like it's very rooted in love and it's very rooted in caring, with Venus being there. And Venus rules your third house of communication, so this could be something that you're wanting to do communications for, to write for this group, or it could be a friend you've great communication with, you're connected in your local neighborhood, community. It could also be with Venus ruling your 10th house of career, that this is something that you're connecting to people through your work with this new moon, Leo. But it does feel like it's a really positive time to make some new friends, join new teams, and it's a very social energy for you. And I have to say, in general, June has a very social energy, especially in the first half, because Jupiter is there expanding your social network, expanding the teams that you're a part of. You're making more friends. You're making more friends that you feel are very wise, learned people who have a lot to teach you. You're learning through your friends. You may have similar spiritual values this month. And with Venus being there as well, there's a lot of love when it comes to your teams and relationships, Leo. Now on the 2nd, Jupiter trine Pluto in your 11th house and your 7th house respectively means that if you're looking for a partner, you may meet somebody through friends, through teams, through groups, through social connections. You could meet somebody through your friends, and this person they could have the potential to change your life. Or it could be that, you are talking about the future and making plans for the future with a romantic partner as well. For some of you, it doesn't have to be a romantic partner. It can be business, it can be a best friend, it can be a really important client. Some of you could be networking and actually get a famous client, or someone who's very well known or very powerful, Leo. That can be another way that this manifests for you. The 4th of June, there might be some very exciting communication coming up with a friend or a group of people. And again, this feeling of a lot of love with other people. You could find love with a group, with a team, with a social network. For some of you, maybe that's on the internet as well, but it feels like a lot of you could be really feeling the love and the connection with the Venus Cazimi on the 4th happening in your 11th house. You know, there could be a lot of talking about the future with a partner, or you could meet someone through friends, etc., etc. That can be a new way that this can manifest. I will say, because the 11th house is to do with wish fulfillment. On the new moon, on the 6th, it's a great time to make a vision board. It's a great time to manifest. It is a great time to speak things into existence. Whatever it is that aligns you with the future that you want. Now, whether you believe that manifestation works on a spiritual perspective, a physics perspective, or just in terms of, you know, getting your ass into gear with the things that you want by looking at them, it doesn't matter. Because this new moon is a time to make things happen in the future. And particularly with Jupiter being in your 11th house, Jupiter does set things up for the future in general. So this is a great time to create the future you wish to see. Leo. So that's one to really enjoy. Now, on the 9th, Mars gets into your 10th house of career and public image. So there's a couple of different ways this can play out. Mars can give you a lot of energy to make things happen career-wise. You've more energy to put into your professional life, to work, to commit to your work. You've more energy for building a professional profile, for showing up at work. On the other hand, this can be clashes with authority. This can be getting angry at work, conflict in the workplace. It can also be frustration and impatience sometimes when it comes to your career. But because it's in Taurus, I would say that this is slow and steady, wins the race energy with your career rather than all systems go. You know, this is, I have the energy for this, but it's going to be slow and steady, methodical, practical. Do watch out on the 11th because there could be a clash, there could be an argument, particularly when it comes to someone in a position of authority and maybe a partner. This could be a time, Leo, where you don't really, I mean, with the 7th house, it's a legal house. This isn't a great time to fight the law. This isn't a great time to get into a conflict with someone in a position of authority. This isn't really a great time to show up in an aggressive, angry energy. Leo, I will mention that. Mars being in your 10th house, it can give you the energy for your career. It can give you the energy to work your way to the top, to advocate for yourself professionally. But with that square to Pluto in the 7th, I feel as though you could run into power struggles quite quickly and you don't know how that can affect you in the long run. So I would be careful on the 11th of getting into arguments with people in positions of authority. I'd be careful of fighting with your boss. I would also be careful of introducing a key partner or partnership to your boss or to your workplace because it might clash. It might not actually work so well as you were hoping, Leo. So just be mindful of that. And Venus is going to enter your 12th house on the 17th alongside Mercury, and they're going to connect on the 17th. With Venus and Mercury connecting in your 12th house, this could be a really positive time to feel the energy of unconditional love. The 12th house is a very healing energy. It is quite reclusive. It's a space of retreat. It's a place of sleep. You might have a really beautiful dream that night. You might also find that if you're single, you dream of your soulmate. You might find that if you are missing someone who has parted over, you have a dream about them that feels really good. This might also be a time when you have some sort of dream that gives you closure with Venus and Mercury connecting in your 12th house. Venus and Mercury transiting your 12th house can be a beautiful time to feel unconditional love from somebody. So whether that is that you have a secret admirer, whether that is that you feel this wave of love come over you for no reason, it can be that type of energy comes up for you as well. It can also be a time maybe you're planning to let go of something from the past that has held you back and you're using your creativity to do so. Whether that's that you're writing a song or a poem, you're using your words to heal from something in the past, Leo, is another way that this could play out for you. And the sun enters your 12th house on the 20th, and you may feel more introspective. You may feel like you need to retreat. You may feel like you need to look inward. And you might just want to spend a little bit more time by yourself and work on things behind the scenes and spend some time in solitude where you need it to recharge your energy for your season, which is coming up in July. Now, there are 2 full moons happening in your 6th house. So one full moon is happening on the 21st of June in Capricorn in your 6th house, and then the second full moon is going to be happening at the anaretic degree toward the end of July. So there's a lot to come up when it comes to your workplace, your place of employment, or to do with the services that you offer or with your co-workers. So it feels as though perhaps, Leo, this is also to do with health, by the way, but there's a lot of focus on your health first and foremost. So this might be when you're getting a health check. This might be where you're noticing how you truly feel about your health, your fitness, your well-being, your diet. You might be making changes to these areas. It can also be a time where there are some discussions in your workplace about what's no longer serving you with the opposition to Mercury. You might think, okay, well, this isn't really working for me. There's a trine to Mars in your 10th house, so you might actually find that discussions with a boss or an authority figure about your work go a bit more favorably than you anticipated. It feels as though there may be things that need to be put out on the table in your workplace. It can also be a time when a co-worker is leaving, particularly as we have 2 full moons, or an employee is leaving if you hire people with this full moon. But you may very well, for a lot of you, just be focusing on your lifestyle, be focusing on your health and your well-being, Leo. There is a Saturn retrograde period beginning on the 29th of June. Saturn is going to go retrograde in your 8th house, where you're going to be reconsidering the money that you owe, your mortgage, your loans, your debts. You're going to be reconsidering your commitments to these, where you could make a bit of a financial change to help you in these areas. If you're paying off a mortgage, if you have a lot of if you're paying off debt or something like that, you may be finding that you're reviewing those commitments. You're thinking, okay, well, how can I make this work for me? What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Where am I not committed enough? Where could I, ease up a little bit? You're really reconsidering your commitments and your responsibilities when it comes to your debts, your loans, and other people's money, maybe even your partner's money. There's a period of review coming up for you as well, Leo. But that is what I have for you. I hope you have a great month, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Virgo, welcome to June 2024. Hope you're doing really well. So Virgo, we now have Jupiter in your 10th house for the next year. But this month in particular, you're going to notice the themes that may be playing out for you over the next year, because we have some exciting Jupiter connections. So just to summarize, if you haven't seen my Jupiter and Gemini special video, Jupiter going through your 10th house is going to present you with opportunities for fame, recognition, being in the public eye, expanding your reputation, what you're known for, what you're an expert in, what you're learned in. This can be a time where you receive some sort of recognition or reward, or a significant achievement comes your way, Virgo. So if you're looking to be in the spotlight, this is pretty positive for you. And we have a really lovely new moon conjunct Venus in that same sector on the 6th of June. Now, although this is not closely aspecting Jupiter, Jupiter has a co-presence with this new moon, and it is conjunct Venus, which is a benefic planet. So this month has the potential, Virgo, to bring you some really positive new beginnings when it comes to your career, or if you're not working, when it comes to a goal of yours or what you're known for publicly. And it's really positive. So if you're looking to apply for a new job, start a new job, this is a great time to do it. If you're looking to manifest, whatever that means for you. It doesn't matter if you believe that it's a physics thing. It doesn't matter if you believe that it's a spiritual serendipitous thing, or it doesn't matter if it's just simply that, staring at your vision board refocuses your mind on what it is you want to commit. It's just a matter of manifestation in general. So this is a great new moon to set intentions, to write out goals, to figure out what it is that you want professionally. You might also find with this new moon that a role in your workplace that is a bit higher up is opening up for you, and you may be stepping into it. It may also be that there is a female in your workplace in a position of authority or power who really believes in you and wants you to chair something or wants you to lead something. Gemini, Virgo. With this Jupiter in Gemini, new moon in Gemini, Virgo is what I'm trying to say. So there's something new coming up professionally for you. This could be a new title, even for some of you. It could be that your title's going to change. It could be that you have a new boss or someone in a new position of authority, and this person's really going to be quite favorable for you, Virgo, particularly financially, because Venus rules your money. So pay attention to a new career opportunity or new role opportunity, because it may pay well, or it could really benefit you financially with that new moon. It is in a square to Saturn, and we do have a lot of squaring going on, Virgo, from your 10th house to your 7th this month. So one thing to watch out for is the expansion in your career, the growth in your career. You may feel that it's holding you back from finding or meeting a significant other, or it may be that your significant other is finding that all you talk about is work, or all you're doing is work, or they may feel left behind in some way. There's a bit of a clash going on between your expansion in your career, Virgo, and your responsibilities and your commitments to another person. You may also find that you actually have a work rival. You may have someone who really wants your position or your role. The 7th house is the house of open enemies, so I think they would let you know if they do, or they see you as some kind of rival. They'd probably be very obviously aggressive or upfront about it. Is one thing I will say, Virgo, so watch out for that too this month, although Jupiter is really favoring you when it comes to your career, especially with Mercury, the ruler of your 10th house, in your 10th house, connecting to Jupiter on the 4th. Maybe a time of really positive news with a goal. You may get some recognition. You might be in the spotlight for your skills or what it is that you do. There is also, Virgo, a Sun-Venus connection. They're conjunct at 14 degrees of Gemini in your 10th house. You could be really appreciated for your skills. Someone might be giving you a gift at work or a present. You could be feeling you could be feeling the love in your career sector. It might even be that for some of you, maybe you fall in love at work. But it can be just as easily, I think, Virgo, that you're recognized for your skills and your achievements, and you're gaining some sort of visibility, particularly with the Sun. The Sun does rule your 12th house, so maybe it's work you've been doing behind the scenes, but it's visibility nonetheless. Now, Mars is entering your 9th house on the 9th, and on the 11th gets into a square with Pluto in your 6th. This is tricky. The 11th is a bit of a harsh day with Mars in your 9th house squaring off with Pluto in your 6th. There can be some conflict with someone that you work with, a colleague, or even an employee, surrounding maybe foreign affairs, maybe situations happening in the world, maybe religion, maybe spiritual topics, but it feels like there could be some sort of conflict that really doesn't. It could be the type of conflict that ends with a real severance. So this might be that it, destroys the relationship beyond being repaired. So be mindful of that. If you have an employee that you really value, but you get into an argument that day, they might actually leave. It can also be that you could be finding that the shadowy or shady behavior of someone you work with really irritates you in terms of your principles that day. But be careful of getting into a conflict, because it can absolutely escalate. Now, Mars going through your 9th house from the 9th means that your energy might be going towards traveling, your energy might be going towards studying if you're in university or college, or you just want more knowledge in general, Virgo. You may be studying more things, you might be wanting to learn more about the world, take more trips, but it can also be that these are the things that you're more argumentative about, or the people that you run into arguments with. So you might argue with your priest if you have one. You might argue while traveling with somebody. You might find that you argue about foreign affairs, as I say, but Mars going through your ninth house can be a time when you really do have the energy to travel more, to take more trips, to plan more trips, or to study. You know, Mars gives you the energy there in Taurus. You might have more energy to study something and really dedicate yourself to learning new things. And that might also be a source of intimidation to people that you work with. If you're a fountain of knowledge and they feel they don't know very much on the 11th, it could be that someone is a bit shady at that time, Virgo. Venus and Mercury enter Cancer, which is your 11th house, on the 17th, and they connect instantly. They're going to be conjunct. So with Mercury being your ruler and Venus being a very positive influence, this may be a time on the 17th where you're feeling quite social, you're feeling quite connected to friends, you're maybe feeling the love from friends, might be a fun social event to attend around this time. In fact, with Venus entering your 11th house on the 17th, things do get progressively more social, especially around the 20th. For you, Virgo, and the 21st, there could be some very fun events to attend. You might notice different options of events you could attend. You might find your social calendar gets quite busy, especially around the full moon on the 21st in your 5th house. It is the first of 2 full moons in your 5th house. So there might be a fun party on the 21st, give or take a couple of days before, a couple of days after. There could be a fun event to socialize with other people, to have fun with other people. The 5th house is creative. You could be going to a gig or a concert or a really fun party. Under that full moon, it is going to be trining Mars in your 9th house. So maybe you're traveling for this event, or it could be that perhaps you're traveling to see somebody who's maybe, or attending a party for someone who's maybe flown in, someone who's maybe from a different country or is returning home for an event. That's possible as well, Virgo. But it feels with this full moon that there's a lot of opportunity for fun, for pleasure, enjoyment, doing things you enjoy, seeing the arts, performing in the arts, really enjoying the fun things in life with that full moon in Capricorn. And you could also find that the trine to Mars brings you a little bit more energy to get out there as well. There will be a video on that going up later, Virgo. But with Mercury and Venus entering your 11th house from the 17th and the Sun there from the 20th, the second half of June could be really very social for you. It can't be all work and no play, Virgo. Saturn is going to go retrograde in your 7th house of relationships on the 29th. So this is a period of review and reflection when it comes to your commitments to a partnership. This may be because your partner feels left out when it comes to your career, or this may be a time when you're rethinking what you want from a relationship in general. Whether you're in one or not, you're in a period of reflection and review when it comes to relationships, what you want, what your boundaries are, what you're willing to commit to, what you're not willing to commit to. And that type of thing can really come up, Virgo. The Sun Mercury conjunction on the 14th in your 10th house of career is another lucky day for you. Mercury is your ruler. Again, a time when you might be getting some recognition. I'm not sure if I've already mentioned this day, I don't think I have, but it's very significant for you in terms of news when it comes to your workplace, communications in the workplace, recognition. There could also be news that comes out of nowhere that you didn't see coming, something that was planned for you that you didn't see coming. But the 14th can be a really fun day work-wise. It can be a time when you're feeling really excited about something when it comes to your work or when it comes to your goal that you have, or for whatever reason being in the spotlight, Virgo. That is what I have for you, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi Libra, welcome to June 2024. Hope you're doing really well. Libra, June has a lot of potential for new beginnings that are quite expansive. So there's a lot of activity is going to be happening in June in your ninth house. So for a lot of you, that could be that you are traveling somewhere. It could be that you're going to a different country, you're taking a trip, you're taking a vacation. With Jupiter now in your ninth house, this is going to be a very positive year for traveling experiences, learning new things through different cultures, through culture shocks, through expanding your horizons. And it doesn't have to be literal travel, it could actually be that you're just learning about different cultures or you're studying something. Maybe some of you are doing a master's, maybe some of you are getting a degree. But this month is very positive for those things. And that is because not only because Jupiter is now in that sector, but also because we have this really nice new moon in your ninth house conjunct Venus. So, what this could mean for a lot of you is that perhaps this is where you book a trip, you decide you're going to take the vacation. Venus, your ruler, is there. So, this could be something that you really want to do. It's a personal goal of yours to go to this place. For some of you, it could be that you're deciding you're going to sign up to college or university or apply to those things. Maybe you're starting a new course of education at this time as well. It can also be that for a lot of you, you are simply perhaps learning something new when it comes to spirituality or religion. Maybe you're becoming more spiritual with Jupiter going through the ninth. A lot of the time, Jupiter going through the ninth house tends to give us a broader perspective of the bigger picture. We see the bigger picture, we look at things from a more bird's eye view, and we feel a lot of the time when Jupiter goes through our ninth house a little bit more spiritual, a little bit more connected. So there could be new beginnings happening there for a lot of you, Libra, as well. But it does look like a really nice time to plan a trip or sign up for college or university, because with Venus being there, Venus being a benefic, it feels as though there's a bit of positivity, blessing, gift on your side with these new beginnings, these new matters, Libra. Another really positive day for you is, well, there's actually a few positive days, but Jupiter is trine Pluto on the 2nd, and Jupiter is in your ninth house, Pluto is in your 5th. So it could be that if you're traveling, you might meet a romantic interest. It could be that some of you are traveling for creativity. It could be you're traveling to see a concert. It could be that you are going to be feeling very artistically inspired if you take a trip. You could be learning or studying something artistic. And it could also be that if you're in university or you're in college or you're studying something, it could be that you perhaps fall in love. It could be that you find romance through higher education, through studying. It could be that for a lot of you, you're traveling and it really feels like a lot of fun with Pluto being in the 5th house. And it could also be that perhaps you have a child that is going off to college or university or is studying something, or there's some sort of positivity connected to a child in your life whereby you feel like you're seeing the bigger picture, you feel like you're getting the information that you need, you're learning more, maybe through a child, or maybe you're traveling with a child around this time as well. So another positive day for you, Libra, is the 4th of June when Mercury is conjunct Jupiter and the Sun is conjunct Venus. Particularly looking at the fact that the Sun is conjunct Venus because you are ruled by Venus. So this is a lucky day for you where you're going to feel the warmth of the sun, you're going to feel positive, you're going to feel optimistic. Maybe for a lot of you, you're getting some you're having a positive experience with friends. The sun rules your 11th house. Maybe you're just feeling really in the spotlight for good reason. You're feeling really blessed. And it could also be that if you are traveling, maybe you're really enjoying where you are. Maybe you're really enjoying the culture. Maybe you're really enjoying the people around you as well. With Mercury conjunct Jupiter in your ninth house, maybe for some of you it's good news surrounding a visa. It could be getting a new passport. It could be travel plans that are really coming to fruition and you're very excited about as well. Mars is leaving your 7th house of relationships on the 9th and entering your 8th house. Now, Mars going through the 8th house is going to feel a little bit, at times, like psychological sunburn. So it can be where you're going along fine and then something happens that you feel very triggered about and you're not entirely sure why. And it can be a case that perhaps with this energy going through your eighth house, maybe you're feeling a little bit on edge at times, a little bit more sensitive with Mars being there, sort of rummaging things up. It could be a good time to do some shadow work because you have the energy for it, you have the bravery for it. It could also be that there's potential for conflicts and arguments surrounding a loan, surrounding debt, surrounding someone else's money, whether that's your spouse or whether it is about a mortgage or something like that. There could be a bit of tension regarding that area. But at the same time, Libra, you might have the energy to clear out some debt, to maybe start a new payment plan where you're going to focus on this. It does feel for a lot of you, it could be to do with your partner's money and your joint resources with your partner. There could be some tension, particularly when it pertains to a child that you share. If you have children, with Pluto in the 5th house squaring Mars on the 9th. That's on the 11th, I mean. That's a very tricky day. There could be some tension regarding payments for child support or payments running a child's school, or the payments that your partner is making for your children, or a grant or a loan or something to do with other people's money when it comes to a child. Or maybe even for a lot of you it could be funding when it comes to creativity. There may be some tension going on there on the 11th of June. It's a tricky day for arguments. I would be careful of getting into any argument. It can certainly trigger them, but with Pluto and Mars connected, sometimes these can go a bit further than they are meant to, and there can be some sort of severance. So be careful of that. If you don't, if it's someone that means a lot to you, you don't really want to have that fight. I wouldn't suggest anybody fighting on that day either. I would sort of suggest maybe keeping away from conflict as best as you can. Truly, a better day for communication would be the 14th, when the Sun is conjunct Mercury. It's a better day for communication. And that could bring some news when it comes to travel, when it comes to higher education, when it comes to university, college, hearing from somebody that lives in a different country to you could all be highlighted on the 14th. There could be some important news going on for you at that time, Libra. Venus and Mercury are going to enter your career zone on the 17th, and they're going to connect, and this looks very positive. It looks like a very positive day at work. Truthfully, Venus in your 10th house going forward and Mercury being there are both quite positive for work. It feels as though you could have better communication in the workplace. It feels as though you're getting on better with people in the workplace, particularly women. When Venus goes through your 10th house, you're more highly favored by people professionally, or you're more likely to be well received professionally. Great time to go for interviews, great time to put your work out there. Is another way that this could manifest for you, Libra. It's a really positive time for working with Mercury and Venus both in your 10th house. And on the 20th, the Sun enters your 10th house, and you're going to be feeling very focused on your professional life. And you may even notice that you're getting some sort of recognition in the workplace, or that is where your energy is going from the middle of June onwards. The first half of June, I feel like, is more about exploring for you, Libra, and then the second half is more to do with career focus. And there's a full moon in Capricorn on the 21st, which highlights your home and living situation. And this might bring matters to a head with your family or your living situation, or something may come to your attention in your living situation or with a family member for you at this time, Libra. Again, this could be something to do with your financial situation, so loans, mortgages, because there's a trine to Mars in your 8th house. So you might be finding that there's something coming up around that time surrounding your mortgage or your home or your living situation, or payments surrounding the home or family. These two can be linked around the full moon in Capricorn. Saturn goes retrograde in Pisces, which for you is to do with your everyday work and routines. So it's a good time to reflect on what you've been learning in that sector. In the sixth house, Saturn makes you more accountable. It makes you more responsible when it comes to the work that you do, your workplace. Sometimes it can feel a little bit isolating in the workplace. This can be when you're working with people you don't necessarily get along with, or it can be that you're working alone more. It can also be that people are really holding you to a high standard that you're finding you need to be more committed. And you could find it really quite hard work at times in your day job. Similarly, this can also be a wake-up call surrounding your health and your wellness. So you could be reflecting on these different types of things, Libra, and really focusing on what is the best course of action and what you've been doing and how your plan has been going. If you've had a plan to improve your health, if you had a plan to improve your wellness, with Saturn retrograde, it's a good time to reflect on your results and how they're working for you. And you may decide to change something, whether that is work a bit harder, commit a bit more, or you may realize that you need to actually ease off on something ever so slightly within your wellness sector, Libra. So that is what I have for you. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I will talk to you soon. Hey Scorpio, welcome to June 2024. This is your horoscope. So Scorpio, this month puts a lot of focus on your connections, particularly financially. So there's a lot happening in the 8th house. This means that this month has a bit more intensity than usual. You know this, you're the sign associated with the 8th house, so you represent everything that it embodies. So intensity, the occult, mortality, mystery, those type of things come up within the 8th house. Now, there's a lot of focus here because Jupiter is now in your 8th house. Jupiter's now transiting your 8th house of Gemini. And not only that, we have a new moon there. Mercury, which rules the 8th house, is going through the 8th house until the 17th. Well, from the 3rd until the 17th to be exact. And Venus is going to be there as well. So one thing is for sure, Scorpio, there is probably going to be, as I say, a bit of intensity, but it might also make you kind of focused on different mysteries, focusing on the occult. I remember when Jupiter was going through my 8th house, I got quite into true crime, and I hadn't realized it was a big YouTube thing. And I remember getting quite into it and watching videos and different mysteries and things like that, and unsolved mysteries, and finding those places to be very interesting. Now, that is kind of a mundane way that this can play out, but it can also play out as a time where you're really examining your relationship to intimacy and connection to other people. So I don't necessarily mean that in a romantic sense, but I mean that themes about vulnerability, sharing with other people, sharing your emotions, sharing your thoughts, your feelings, trusting in other people, these types of themes can come up. Your ability to connect to other folk on a vulnerable level, whether that be romantic relationships or not, the ability to trust someone enough to share with them, can be a theme that's coming up a lot in June as well. With Jupiter going through your 8th house, you can absolutely benefit from other people financially. So if you're looking to get a loan, a mortgage, if you're looking to receive some sort of grant, these can be themes that come up while Jupiter's in your 8th house. This might also be a new beginning connected to you and someone else financially speaking around the new moon in Gemini. Particularly for a lot of you, I will say it could be a partner, whether that's romantic or business-wise. It is conjunct Venus, which means it's very favorable. Venus does rule your 7th house of relationships, but it does also rule your 12th house of behind the scenes. So for some of you in business, you might have a silent partner. You might have someone who's working behind the scenes in terms of an agreement or a contract, possibly. But I do feel for a lot of you, it could be that you're getting a mortgage this month, or you're getting a loan, or you're being financially supported by somebody else in pursuing something. On the 2nd, Jupiter is trine Pluto. So Jupiter in your 8th house, trining Pluto in your 4th house. This can absolutely look like that loan for a home, or that mortgage for a home, or remortgaging your home, or receiving some sort of financial backing relating to family or relating to a family issue. It can also be, believe it or not, absolutely nothing to do with money. This can all be to do with healing when it comes to maybe healing ancestral karma, inherited trauma, emotional baggage, relationships to your family. These things can all be healed with Pluto adding this psychological trauma-based perspective in your fourth house, where you're seeing your past differently, you're doing inner child work, shadow work, you're looking into your lineage, you're looking into your past, and you're bringing all this transformative energy. And then there's this trine to Jupiter in the 8th, which is saying you're benefiting from all of this. You're benefiting from anything where you're working through trauma, doing shadow work, those type of things, or experiencing, even for some of you, maybe some mediumship, or maybe experiencing, wanting to heal your relationship surrounding death, surrounding mortality. And also, I think healing when it comes to a family legacy, or wanting to improve or leave behind a family legacy, could be coming up for a lot of Scorpios as well. I certainly feel with Mercury going through your 8th house, what you're going to be talking about is probably the occult, mysteries. You might be talking to your partner a lot about money. You might be talking to your bank a lot as well. Scorpio. Now, when it comes to relationships, Mars going through your 7th house from the 9th, this can really be in some ways, this can really ramp up physical intimacy with a partner. In other ways, it can also bring conflict with a partner kind of out of nowhere, or it can just make things feel a little bit more heated. So do watch for that, particularly around the 11th. Your relationship to someone could really go very badly around the 11th if you're not careful. So Mars is in a square to Pluto. Now, these are your ruling planets: Mars traditional, Pluto modern. They're going to form a square in your relationship zone and your family zone. So you may be getting into a conflict with a partner over a living situation. This could also be, it doesn't have to be a romantic partner. You could be getting into an argument with someone else about a living situation. It could also be that potentially you are getting into some sort of heated discussion with a family member about your relationship, or it could be that perhaps your partner and your family are not getting on very well around this time. It's actually a better day than the 11th to just lay low and be a little bit avoidant, because conflicts that happen around this time have a lot of potential to cause some serious damage. So I would be mindful of that. There could be something where your partner and your home, there's some sort of power struggle between, say your girlfriend and your mother, or something like that. There could be some tension going on between a key relationship in your life and family. Or you could be getting into a conflict with a family member about another relationship, somebody else. So be careful about that day. Try to keep a cool head and try and avoid conflict as much as you can. A better day for communication is actually the 14th, with the Sun Mercury Cazimi in your 8th house. If you're looking to discuss a loan or shared resource, or discuss an important topic that's maybe quite hard or taboo to discuss, it's a better day to do it with the Mercury Cazimi. Venus and Mercury enter your 9th house on the 17th. The Sun enters your 9th house on the 20th. Really positive time to travel, really positive time to connect with people from different cultures. Also favors learning, studying, university, college, those type of things are highly favored under this transit. Especially in the 17th, there may be news relating to these areas that is positive. There is a full moon on the 21st, and it's happening in your 3rd house. So something could be kicking off, or something could be happening in your local neighborhood. Maybe a neighbor is moving in, maybe a neighbor is moving, maybe you're getting involved in a local community event, maybe something is coming up with a sibling. And this can also be a time for positive communication when it comes to, a partner. If there has been some disagreement or issue, the full moon in your 3rd house tends to bring about communication. It tends to bring about news. It has an opposition to Mercury. The square to Neptune is making me feel a little bit that there's a little bit of vague confusion in the background with whatever's going on, but it's more of a feeling. It's less of you're not really able to explain it so much. The reason for that is on the 20th, the Sun in Gemini, in the last degree of Gemini, is going to be squaring Neptune in the last degree of Pisces, which means there could be a little bit of confusion, there could be a little bit of uncertainty when it comes to someone else's intentions, when it comes to a matter that is connecting you with another person. Just a little bit of uncertainty and vagueness surrounding the full moon itself, but it feels a little bit like it's not necessarily anything that you could quite explain, nor you ever explain, but there is a bit of confusion coming around in June because of the squares to Neptune and Pisces at the critical degree. So that can look like vagueness, that can look like intuitive issues, sometimes not being so sure if it's the universe or delusion. That kind of issue can come up at times in June, and that's just something to understand, that you don't necessarily have to do anything with that. It's just that it brings about an energy of communication confusion at times, with Neptune forming squares to all the Gemini energies. So just watch out for that. But on that full moon itself, it does feel like there is some sort of communication, there's a conversation going on, and it feels with the trine to Mars that it benefits you in a relationship in your life. And yes, that's the first of 2 full moons in Capricorn. There will be a full moon in Capricorn in July, believe it or not, at the critical degree. So we'll talk about that more when it happens. But the second half of July brings a big focus on traveling, on taking trips, on learning of it, expanding your mind, Scorpio. On the 4th of June, there is a Venus cazimi, and there's also Mercury conjunct Jupiter, all in the 8th house. So this can be a really positive time, again, for communication when it comes to shared financial arrangements, financial matters. This can also be a time with the Sun Venus cazimi that you are feeling more happy or content when it comes to a joint financial relationship, or maybe you're even getting clarity on an intimacy or vulnerability matter as well, Scorpio. Now, there's a lot of squares to Neptune in your 5th house. There's also a Saturn retrograde on the 29th, which means that when it comes to the 5th house, so this is romance, this is the arts, creativity, pleasure, you're going into a period from the 29th of rethinking and reflecting in this area your commitments. So maybe you have been more committed to your art, to your craft, maybe you've been more committed to having fun, enjoying yourself. Or maybe you're realizing where have been holding back in those areas with Saturn retrogrades. You might be reassessing your commitment to dating or romance, or you might be reassessing your commitment to an artistic project, an artistic hobby. And this may be coming from the fact that we have a lot of confusion in that area between your 8th house. So it's sort of saying, particularly connecting to someone else on an intimate level, what are your boundaries there? When you're dating, what are your boundaries? What do you feel most comfortable with? Those are things you might be reflecting on, or even just in your relationships of all kind. You're kind of reflecting on your connections and the boundaries that you have in place there, because Jupiter going through the 8th, Jupiter's quite boundaryless. Saturn, though, is quite fond of boundaries to the point sometimes where they're restrictive. So you're reviewing where you've become. You're setting healthy boundaries when it comes to your kids, when it comes to your children, when it comes to romantic interests, when it comes to creativity. Then you're also realizing where you've maybe become too restrictive too. Scorpio, that is another way that this can actually play out for you as well. So those are the key dates that I wanted to mention for you in June. I hope you have a good one, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Sagittarius, welcome to June 2024. So Sagittarius, June has a lot of focus on your relationships. That can be your partnerships, that can be your spouse, it can be your significant other, it can also be a business relationship, and it can be your relationship to your clients, and it can also be legal matters in general, but it really focuses on one-on-one relationships. So this month has a lot of growth happening in that area thanks to Jupiter now being there. And this can mean for a lot of you that you are going to be meeting somebody in June. You could meet a very significant romantic partner if you're single in June. It could also be that in your current relationship, maybe there's a new phase. So that could look for some of you like moving in together. For others of you, you could be taking your first holiday. For others of you, it could be getting engaged or actually getting married. Or for some of you, it could also be, separating from a relationship if you feel like that is the wisest thing to do with Jupiter being there now. But it really does look for a lot of you Sagittarius that this is a time to focus on your relationships and that there is a positive new chapter afoot. The reason being is that one, Jupiter is there, but also the fact that there is a new moon happening in your relationship sector conjunct Venus. So for single Sagittarius risings, this is what you would want. If you're looking for a partner, it's a great time to set intentions about what you want from a relationship, the type of partner that you want. If you're looking, or if you're in a relationship, as I say, this can be a really lovely new chapter with a partner. That conjunction to Venus feels as though there's a lot of love involved here. There is a bit of a square to Saturn in your 4th house, which means you may have, perhaps, if you meet somebody, maybe you come from very different families, maybe you don't live so close to each other, maybe if you're in a relationship, you decide you want to move in together, but you're sort of trying to figure out how you're going to afford it. There's a bit of, I guess, a little bit of restriction coming in from your home and family sector, whatever that means for you. But the conjunction to Venus is showing a lot of love and new beginning in your partnership or relationship sector. Maybe for some of you that is that you find a client that you just adore, that you really, really, really like, who's very supportive of you. Maybe for some of you in a business relationship, you feel like you're very supported, you feel like it's a very good fit, a very good match. You basically, I think, in June find a partner of some kind that is a great match for you, Sagittarius. And it could be around the 4th when Mercury, the ruler of your 7th house, is conjunct your ruler in your 7th house. So maybe you make a move on someone, maybe you show your interest in somebody and they reciprocate. The sun is also conjunct Venus that day, so it looks like a lot of you could find that whoever you are into is into you, or it could be a positive event happening in your relationship sector. You could get a really significant client in your life, maybe someone with a bit of fame or a bit of fortune. Or you could find that you are getting one over on arrival, that you have Sagittarius as well. Now on the 2nd, Jupiter, your ruler, in your 7th house, is trining Pluto in your 3rd house, which means that there could be a really positive conversation coming up with a partner. You could be making a really fun plan with a partner. Some of you could find maybe a partnership or a best friend or a client or something in your local neighborhood as well with this Jupiter-Pluto trine. And it feels like the expansion that's happening in your sector of relationships, maybe new relationships coming in, are really helping you communicate better, change the way you speak up for yourself, change the type of things that you do daily. And it's the type of positive change that could really lead to, it's kind of like little changes leading to big results later on with this Jupiter trine Pluto transit. It's also more easy to discuss things with partners because Mercury and Venus are both dancing through your 7th house until the 17th when they meet in your 8th house of Cancer. And this could be that perhaps on the 17th you have something to figure out in a joint financial relationship with Venus and Mercury connecting in your 8th house. There seems to be a discussion about money or talking about money or thinking about money, thinking about a mortgage, thinking about a loan, thinking about how to overcome a debt issue. Those type of things could come up with the Mercury-Venus conjunction in the 8th house. You could also get news about a financial gift or financial reward, Sagittarius, under that particular transit. And Mars is going to enter your 6th house on the 9th, which is going to put a lot of energy into you to improve your health, to get fit. And a lot of the time I have a friend who is very, very into running and she runs a lot of races. Every time a significant marathon comes along that she's running, the it just makes me laugh that Mars is nearly always transiting her 6th house, which is to do with health and well-being. So Mars gives us the energy to do these things. You might be running a marathon, you might be running your first race, you might be hitting the gym more, you might be very focused on your health and well-being, and you have more energy maybe to focus on something that you do for your health, whatever that is. It will look differently for everybody. And I think with it being Taurus, it could be a lot to do with what you're eating. It could be spending time outdoors, spending time in nature. Now, Mars is going to get into a square with Pluto, though, in your 3rd house. I think Sagittarius, as the 6th house is also to do with colleagues, co-workers, be very careful getting involved in heated discussions with co-workers, colleagues, with employees, with people you work with, because it could trigger an argument that you didn't anticipate, but it could actually be quite tricky. This could also be with a sibling. This could also be with a neighbor. Just be careful of getting into arguments. It's not a favorable day to engage in conflict, but it is absolutely a day when conflict can occur. The 11th is the trickiest day actually of June, I think. We have a full moon coming up in Capricorn, which is highlighting your money, Sagittarius, on the 21st. So it's in a trine to Mars in the 6th house, so I feel like you're really wanting to focus on better financial habits. This can be a time when you're coming into some money, you're getting paid for something, maybe you're focusing your attention on your finances, and really the moon tends to drum up feelings, so how we feel about these matters will come to a head. I do think with the trine to Mars, your key focus is to be productive, even if you're not necessarily so sure of the details. There is an opposition to Mercury and Venus in your 8th house, so there could be some sort of balancing act when it comes to a joint financial relationship, how you're paying off something, or your money versus your partner's money. There could be something to discuss around the time of that full moon. Sagittarius. There's also a Sun-Mercury conjunction on the 14th in your partnership zone. Your partner may have news. You may get a significant communication from your partner or a romantic interest, a potential partner, or a business partner. There could be news coming up from them, something to be discussed. Saturn is going to go retrograde in your home sector. So I want to talk about your home sector for a second because we have some significant squaring going on to Neptune at the crisis degree in your home sector. So it feels like for a lot of you, there might be something a bit confusing going on within the home or with a family member. It's something that you can't quite put your finger on. There could be confusion. You could be dealing with someone who has escapist tendencies or who's very elusive that you can't quite pin down, that you can't quite get a hold of with Neptune being there. Someone who's maybe away in La La Land, someone who's maybe not very realistic. Or it could be that you're feeling very confused about the home. I will say for a lot of you, and this isn't meant to be scary, but with Neptune being there and Neptune being associated with gases, just be careful you don't leave gases turned on, or you have the appropriate detectors in the home for those type of things. Make sure you're airing out your spaces and stuff like that with Neptune at that degree. Just something worth mentioning. Sagittarius, again, not intended to scare, just something that popped into my mind with Neptune being at that degree. But it feels like there could be a bit of confusion, and it may get to a partner that you live with or someone that you live with, the confusion that's going on, and it may feel a bit confusing at times in June. Not consistently, just at times. And also we have then Saturn going retrograde in your home sector. So I think for a lot of you, with Saturn going through this place for you, going through your sector of home, living situation, oftentimes when Saturn goes through the 4th, we want to lay down significant roots somewhere. It can bring about a move, it can bring about a dream home. It can, well, more so than a dream home, I would say a forever home. It can be where you spend a lot of time looking for a new property, renovating a new property, building a property. It takes time with Saturn. And this could be a case where you're starting to review the progress that you've made, maybe with purchasing a home or decorating a home, or the progress that you've made refurbishing or committing deeper to your family. If you have significant family commitments, Sagittarius, you might be rethinking them now and what they are for you and how they're working for you. It may also be that you have to set some boundaries in place with your family as well. Sagittarius, that is entirely possible in June. And you may be reflecting the work that you've been doing in your home and family sector, the work you've done on family relationships, the work you've done on the home, and how you would like your home to look going forward, or what you want that situation to be. Again, where you have to set boundaries, where you have to commit or review your commitments in your home and family sector. That's what I have for you, Sagittarius, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Capricorn, welcome to June 2024. I hope you're all doing really well. So Capricorn, this is your horoscope for the month ahead. Now, one of the areas that has a lot of potential for blessings with you is your daily life sector. So your daily routine, what you do for your health, your well-being, your fitness, but also your job, the services that you provide, the people that you work with, co-workers, also your employees if you have them as well. But just generally to do with your workplace. So with Jupiter now being in that sector, Venus is there until the 17th, so is Mercury. There's a lot of positive energy happening there. And we have a new moon there on the 6th. So for some of you, there can be a new beginning here, whether that is that you're starting a new job, whether you have new co-workers, whether you have new employees. It feels like the people that you're working with, you feel really good about. You really like them. You think they're knowledgeable, you think they're wise, you think that you can benefit a lot from them and their wisdom and just their energy in general. You really like it. It can be a great time to start a new job. It can be a great time to offer a new service. It can be a great time to begin a new role of some kind. It can also be a wonderful time to start fresh when it comes to your health, what it is that you're eating, what you're doing for exercise. You may just feel the benefits that little bit quicker, and you may be more aware of the benefits of the exercises that you do. You might feel more benefit. You get a lot of luck and joy from exercising or taking care of your health. And obviously, that will look very differently to each individual depending on their capabilities, where they're at in life, age, all those different types of things. But for you individually, it will look like you feel the benefits of whatever it is that you are doing for your health and your wellness. Particularly on the 2nd, Jupiter in your sector of health and well-being is going to be trining Pluto in your 2nd. You may notice that the more you do for your health and your well-being, the more confident you feel. You might also notice that if you started a new job, if you're starting a new job, it's going to benefit you financially. You have the opportunity to transform your financial situation as well, Capricorn. You may also notice that whatever healthy habits you're putting in place, they can actually help you develop more self-esteem and confidence, and that help you make more changes. You know, you kind of want to change, you feel more empowered by them, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But it's certainly going to be a time, Capricorn, where you're very invested in your fitness and your wellness and what you're eating. And some of you might even travel for something health related, whether that's you're traveling to get some sort of procedure in a different country, whether it is that you're traveling to a different country for a marathon or something like that. I have a friend who travels to different countries to do marathons who actually has natal Jupiter in the 6th, which is a way that this can play out. So you might be traveling for fitness, traveling for wellness. You might also find that you are just benefiting so much more from the people that you work with and the job that you do, and they can bring you a lot of luck and positive experiences, Capricorn. And if you're looking to manifest a new job, the 6th of June is the best time to do it, to set intentions. If you're wanting to, if you have a particular health goal, that is another thing that you could intend or manifest under this new moon. It's a very fortunate time to do it with the conjunction to Venus. that's a very positive place for you. And on the 4th as well, there seems to be a very positive conversation or positive news going on in your workplace, or surrounding a health matter. Maybe you get the all clear on something. Maybe you see results from what you've been doing. There's also a Sun-Venus conjunction on that day in your 6th house. So for you, Capricorn, you may find that you're really feeling the love when it comes to the work that you do, or your health, or your wellness, and you just feel very inspired to keep going, I think, for a lot of you. Or you may just feel a little bit more optimistic about your work situation, about your colleagues, maybe your employees, or something of that nature. It's worth noting that Venus does rule your 10th house, Capricorn. So maybe a female in the workplace is really helping you or sees the potential in you, or you're working with a female in a way that's very positive around this time too. Another thing that's coming up for you, Capricorn, is that Mars is entering your 5th house on the 9th. So from the 9th, Mars will be in your 5th right up until the next month. And this can bring about a lot of energy for the arts, creativity. It can be really good for your romantic life. It can give you more energy to create things, to have fun. That's really where you're putting your energy. You want to express yourself. It can give you more energy to play with your kids, to spend more time with your kids, to go on trips with your kids, Capricorn. But also, this then can cause a bit of conflict in these areas too. You might fight with your romantic partner or your date. You might get into an argument with your children. Your children might be more temperamental. And this could be frustrating for you at time and really flare up your temper. Now, Mars, in terms of the aspects it makes for most of the month, fine. But on the 11th, not so fine. Mars is going to get into a square with Pluto in Aquarius. There could be a pretty bad argument or encounter, maybe with a romantic interest, or one of your children, or yeah, it feels as though it either could be someone you're dating or you're romantically involved with, or it could be, if you have children, one of your children is in a really bad mood. There could be an argument with these types of people surrounding values, surrounding what matters, surrounding money, surrounding possessions. This argument could be quite bad because it triggers a lot of past stuff for either you or this person. Be very careful of getting into arguments because they don't necessarily feel, with Pluto there's a lot of potential for stuff that you weren't anticipating to come out, and it could be quite painful for you, and it could really hurt your confidence. So just be careful around that time for an argument with a child or with someone you're dating, or even just you're sort of maybe impulsively spending, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I have spent so much money that I didn't have. Just be careful around that time, Capricorn, because it would be better just to kind of, if you feel something start to bubble, just take a step back and remove yourself from the situation with Pluto involved. Because tempers could really flare, I think, with that particular square. It's not really that pleasant. Even on a world perspective, it's not necessarily that pleasant either. So just be mindful of it. People that day could be exceptionally tense, and you don't know what's going to come out with Pluto in the mix. So you've been warned. A lot of focus then comes to your partnership, your relationship, Capricorn. So Mercury and Venus, in a really cute way, they hold hands and move from the chaos they create in Gemini at the anaretic degree, squaring Neptune. They hold hands and move into your partnership sector. So when I say about chaos, there could actually be a little bit of confusion in the workplace. Be careful if you have any workplace crushes, because you might actually get a bit confused. You might also find that you're doing something health-wise that you can't quite figure out why, but it's temporarily making you feel a bit worse. It might turn out that you have an allergy to, say, you're taking a new vitamin, and your face breaks out. There could be a bit of confusion as to why you're getting a bad reaction from something in work or something health-wise when things were going very well. Be very careful around the 16th of what you're ingesting, what you're putting on your skin, what you're eating. If it's something new, I wouldn't try it out in that period because it could actually cause an adverse reaction. So just be mindful of that. But Venus and Mercury enter your 7th house of relationships in the 17th, and they connect that very day. So there could be a conversation coming up with a romantic partner that feels very positive. You could be making some plans with a romantic partner, spending time with your romantic partner, or you could be getting a message or messaging a potential romantic partner around the 17th. But it feels like at least somebody out there is telling you how much they love you and appreciate you around the 17th, to be honest. Capricorn, which is very cute. And this looks like a time of maybe a message coming in romantically that you're really pleased with. The Sun enters your relationship sector on the 20th. Bear in mind with Venus being there, if you're looking for a significant romantic relationship, this is a really favorable time, particularly as Venus is going to later on trine Saturn. But this could be a really positive time for finding somebody or making significant relationships better, improving in your relationships. It's just a better time in general when it comes to partnerships, relating to other people, getting on with other people. The Sun entering that sector puts a lot of focus on either your partner, a key relationship in your life, or maybe even finding one if that's what you're looking for, Capricorn. Now there's a full moon in your sign, and bear in mind we have 2 full moons happening in your sign this year. We have one in June, we have one in July. This one, the early degree of Capricorn, the last one is going to be at the end degree of Capricorn. So over the next couple of months, you're actually wrapping up a cycle on a personal level. You might be feeling more introspective, more reflective in who you are, what you want, what you need. What makes you feel happy is up for discussion under this full moon. There can also be an image change, or you could find yourself being in the spotlight on the 21st, but it feels as though your focus is going to be on who you are, who you're becoming, what you need with that full moon in your sign on the 21st. And part of the reason you're also kind of reflective on this is because Saturn, your ruling planet, is going to go retrograde on the 29th. And when your ruling planet goes retrograde, it means that you're more reflective on your own personal values, wants, needs. And for you, this is coming through the perspective of boundaries and commitments. So you're reflecting on your own personal boundaries, your own commitments, what you're dedicated to. And this may be in the context of siblings, with it being in the 3rd house. It might be within the context of your neighborhood, your neighbors, your activities within the community. It might also be reflecting on your car, your motor. Some of you may decide, do you know what? I just want to cycle. I don't want to drive. Some of you might decide, okay, I'm investing a lot of energy into, being responsible for keeping the peace with a sibling or a neighbor, and you're thinking, this is really draining for me. You're maybe reevaluating these relationships. It could also be with extended family, cousins, aunts, uncles. You might be reflecting on these relationships. It can also be that you reconnect with these relationships with Saturn retrograde, with some boundaries in place, I would say. But just as much as it can be those types of relationships, it can also just be your mental process, how you're thinking. You might review your thought process and think, have I been a bit pessimistic? Have I been a bit glass half empty in my mentality? And do you think I should maybe change that? You're maybe reevaluating your relationship to these things as well, Capricorn. So that's what I have for you, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Aquarius, welcome to June 2024. So Aquarius, this month has the potential for a lot of fun. Jupiter is now in your 5th house. This can bring a lot of opportunity for fun, entertainment, enjoyment, the pleasures in life. That can be going to a lot of gigs, that can be going to a lot of parties, that can be going to artistic events, that can be going to art galleries. Those types of things can come up with Jupiter going through the 5th house. This can also bring up a lot of opportunity for love, for romance, for romantic partnerships, romantic relationships as well. And for some of you, it can also bring about pregnancy or actual birth as well, Aquarius. So This month has a lot of opportunity for new beginnings, you to birth something new, whether that is an artistic project, whether that is the beginning of a new relationship, whether that is the beginning of um, actually having a baby. Whatever these things are for you, Aquarius, June has a lot of potential for these types of things to occur. Reason being is that we not only have a new moon in your fifth house on the 6th conjunct Venus, which is very, very, very favorable for maybe expanding your family by having a child. It can also be meeting someone new that you fall in love with. It can also be creating something new that's just wonderfully creative. With Venus being there, you really feel like you can express yourself. You really feel like maybe this is something that can entertain others if you are an entertainer. Not only that, but we have Jupiter in your fifth house trining Pluto in your first. So if you are an early degree Aquarius ascendant, you're going to feel this very intensely. It can be that you actually do find out that you're pregnant. It can be that you give birth under this particular aspect. It can be that that creative project is birthed. It can be that you have a creative idea. It can also be that you're just having a really fun time, or maybe you date somebody who changes your perspective on the world. That's possible too, like changes you at your core, Aquarius. But this could absolutely be something, being pregnant with something, whether, as I say, that's an idea, it's a project, it's art, it's creativity, or it's actual pregnancy. There are new beginnings to be birthed for you in June. And just self-expression in general is very favored here. So you might find it easier to express yourself, to work with your inner child, to have fun, to be creative, to take risks, to take gambles. Those types of things can come up as well, Aquarius. And also finding a lot of joy through your children. If you have children, this can be a really fun, happy time in your children's lives, regardless of what age they are, Aquarius. So one thing that is coming up that's a bit challenging is Mars is entering your fourth house on the 9th. And the reason that this is challenging for the most part is because, one, Mars can bring up a bit of conflict wherever it goes. So that can be tricky. You might argue with your family. You might argue about real estate, property. Living situations can be sources of tension at this time. You could argue with your roommates. But the real trickiness with this is that it gets into a square with Pluto on the 11th. And Pluto's in your first house. You might blow your top about something pertaining to family, living situation, home situation. You might just feel really irritated, or someone in your family might be really irritated. There could absolutely be a conflict between you and a family member. And this might just be because you have very different ideals, aspirations, views of the future, or you're just feeling very frustrated with someone you live with or through a property matter. Be very careful with confrontation because it can escalate at this time. It's better to take deep breaths and center yourself, as this aspect is a little gnarly. It's not very pleasant. So just be careful around the 11th when it comes to conflict. And maybe people in your family being more aggressive, roommates being more aggressive, or you finding that if, there's someone in your home that is acting as an aggressor, or maybe even someone acting misogynistic is another way that this can come up. So just be mindful of that. Something could really tick you off when it comes to a home or family matter around the 11th. But aside from that, Mars can also, going through the 4th, be a time where if you're renovating, if you're wanting to do work on the home, decorate, you've the energy for it. You've the push to do it. You've the push to find a home, to move, to renovate, to do up your home. You've the energy for these types of tasks. And really, Mars squaring Pluto this month is the main thing in June that Mars is irritable with. So just if you get past that date, you have a lot of energy to do some work on the home, or gut out the home, or whatever you need to do, Aquarius. A really nice day to go on a date or pursue romance is the 4th, with the Sun conjunct Venus and Mercury conjunct Jupiter in your 5th house. Also a great day to be creative, to work on a creative project, and also maybe some good news relating to one of your kids comes up, or news surrounding a pregnancy, or news surrounding a project you're working on comes up, Aquarius, around that time. We also have a full moon happening in your 12th house on the 21st. The fact that the full moon is happening in your 12th house means that around this time, people might not see you. You might be wanting to take some time alone. You might be wanting to take some time to yourself in solitude. I feel like you're kind of excited to be at home on that time. There's a trine to Mars in your 4th house. You kind of want to just take it easy, spend some time at home, spend some time recharging. You might need some more sleep than usual. The sun enters your 6th house on the 20th, and Venus and Mercury enter your 6th house on the 17th. And this puts a bit of emphasis, Aquarius, on your work life, with your co-workers, your place of work, your place of employment, the people that you work with or even that you employ. Better times are ahead with these people. You're going to find it easier to get on with people that you work with, people that work for you. With Venus being there and the sun going into that sector, it's more of a focus for you. You can also benefit more from working out, exercise, looking after your health, and you might find that particularly women in these sectors are of particular use to you. They can help you find what it is that you need to know when it comes to information surrounding health, when it comes to your workplace. This can be a really nice time to socialize with people that you work with Venus going through the 6th. There's also a Saturn retrograde happening on the 29th in your 2nd house of money. It's not just the house of money though, it's to do with priorities and values. These are areas you're reassessing, Aquarius. So regardless of what your financial situation is, you seem to be reflecting on it, reassessing it. You might have to rethink some of your financial priorities, what you're spending money on. Your financial situation may be changing, maybe due to employment changes, maybe due to the fact that you are, you could be going overseas a lot. It feels like for a lot of you, you're rethinking your budget, you're rethinking your financial priorities, or just your values in general. What really matters to you, Aquarius. You're rethinking these different types of areas, and that's okay to do. It's good for growth, it's good for positivity. You might have to set some financial boundaries with yourself and your spending, or you might actually have to relook at your finances and how you're doing when it comes to a saving goal, which is very common with Saturn in the 2nd. A lot of the time we rethink our money and we're saving for something specific, or we have something that our money is really tied up on that's a big commitment. So that could be something coming up for you at this time as well, Aquarius. But that's what I have for you. I hope you have a really great month, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Pisces, welcome to June 2024. This is your horoscope. So Pisces, this is the first Gemini season with Jupiter being in Gemini, which means that we're getting off to a bit of a bang when it comes to the benefits and the positivity and expansion and growth that you're going to see in your home and family sector over the next year. So there's a really lovely new moon happening in your home and living situation and family sector on the 6th of June, and it is conjunct Venus. Now, this is really favorable if you're looking for a home or you're looking for a property. If you're into manifestation, this is a great new moon to set those intentions and to get really clear on what it is you want from your living situation. If you're looking for a home, what type of home it is, where it is, how much it costs. The conjunction to Venus is really positive. So it basically means that, especially as Venus rules your 8th house of loans, mortgages, and those types of financial situations, if you were looking for a property, this is a really positive time to do it and to take some action towards making it happen or making it a reality. With Jupiter going through your 4th house, you could absolutely manifest your dream home this year, or it could be that you actually end up somewhere that's a bit bigger than you anticipated, or it could even be that for whatever reason, Pisces, you end up living abroad. Maybe work offers you a position abroad and you get to move for a year. Maybe for some of you, you move into a bigger home. Maybe for others of you, you renovate your home, expand it, or maybe you expand your family through nieces, nephews, cousins, in-laws. Maybe you start your own family with somebody, Pisces, or you expand your family with somebody. But it really looks like a very favorable time for your home and your living situation and your relationship to your family in general. On the 4th, Mercury, which rules your 7th house of relationships, but also your 4th house of home and your living situation, connects with Jupiter in that same sector. So there could be a conversation with a partner about your living situation, or it could be that you get news about a legal matter pertaining to your living situation. The Sun is conjunct Venus in the same sector on the same day. Again, Venus bringing in this element of joint financial resources. Maybe you get news that you've been approved for a mortgage or a loan or some sort of good financial news. Maybe you realize you have good credit if you're looking to buy a property. It can also just be that maybe somebody in your family has really good news for you on this day as well. With Venus being there, it could be a sibling. But there could be positive news coming up around that time for your home and your living situation. Now, on the 2nd, Jupiter is in your home sector, trining Pluto in your sector of what's hidden. There could actually be something that is going to benefit you home-wise that you don't know about just yet. So it feels as though potentially, Pisces, there is going to be some sort of positive opportunity when it comes to property matter, when it comes to home, when it comes to family. That might be news to you with Pluto being in the sector of the what's hidden. So maybe something happens that's positive that you didn't expect, you didn't see coming, and this feels really expansive. It could be that there's a positive opportunity through family, through your living situation, that feels really healing for you, and possibly even something that you have a premonition about. It could be something that you psychically see before it happens when it comes to home or a living situation. Pluto rules your sector of foreign lands, so for some of you this could be an opportunity to move that comes out of nowhere that you didn't see coming, Pisces. We have Mars entering your sector of your local neighborhood, siblings, neighbors, your aunts, your uncles, your local community, your car, your transport, how you get around. Mars enters that sector on the 9th, so be careful of road rage. Pisces. Be very careful of road rage, be careful of driving too fast. I mean, it's in Taurus, so you might not be so inclined as others to go too fast onto this, but it could happen. Be careful of road rage. Be careful of other people's road rage at you, maybe because you're driving too slow. That could be one way that Mars and Taurus manifests. But be careful on the road. Take extra care with Mars going through that sector. Also, just take extra care commuting in general, because you might meet people who are tense or irritable. And particularly around the 11th, Mars is going to square Pluto in your 12th house of the unseen. Be very careful of getting into conflicts because you've no idea what could come out of left field. I feel as though this is one of those occasions where there may be a conflict, or there may be some sort of experience with a sibling, a neighbor, a cousin, someone in your local commute with the square to Pluto that you feel really off about. You really don't like this. You feel really intuitively or emotionally triggered by this. It's not a great time to get into conflict. The 3rd house is about words, so you might say something you regret that actually ends the relationship or really, really hurts someone else. So I would, around the 11th, I would maybe back off, not get involved in conflict, and maybe find healthier ways to cope with your anger. With Mars being in Taurus, it's putting your feet on the grass, it's laying on the floor for a while to decompress, it's just chilling out and being extra cautious of other people's anger. Maybe being a bit more vigilant if you're out and about traveling too, Pisces. Some really positive news is that Venus and Mercury enter your 5th house of love, romance, creativity, pleasure on the 17th. And this is really positive because if you're looking to date, if you're looking for romance, or you're looking for artistic inspiration or just fun times, entertainment, enjoyment, this is a great time to experience those things with Venus going through the 5th. This can bring a lot of romantic options. It can also bring more romance with a partner of yours. It can be more focused on fun in life. The 5th house transits tend to be a good time. So with Mercury entering that sector, conjunct Venus, this might be a nice time to get a message about going on a date, being asked out on a date, organizing a date with your partner, or just maybe hearing from somebody that you want to hear from is another way that this could play out for you romantically, Pisces. Or a very exciting invitation to attend an event around the 17th. The sun enters your 5th house on the 20th, which means that love, romance, fun, and also your children are going to be the main focus of the month ahead whenever the sun enters that sector. So with Venus being there, Mercury there, and the sun there, you can bet that your attention is being highlighted to a good time, to love, to romance. And this can also be a time where you're having more fun at work as the sun rules your work sector. And just having more fun in your relationship with Mercury there. Mercury rules your relationships, but it also rules your family. So just having more fun with more people. It's kind of covering a wide base here of people that you could have a good time with, Pisces. And it's likely a time when you go to gigs, or you go to concerts, or you go to bars, or you go to bingo, the 5th house, gambling. Although with it being Cancer, maybe you could go to a beach bar, maybe you could go to a beach party, or something like that. There's a full moon in your 11th house on the 21st, which highlights your friendships. Full moons in the 11th are usually quite social. You might have an invitation to go somewhere. Around the 21st, you might be attending a lot of events, a lot of parties, a lot of social networking events. It could be very exciting for you, Pisces. There might be some lively conversations, might even be some lively debates at these different parties for you. But I do feel as though with this full moon opposite Venus and Mercury in your 5th house, there's also the potential to connect to someone romantically at this time. And you may find that the person is maybe kind of different to you in some ways, but it is a balancing kind of union. It's reminding me of the Temperance card, where it's like opposites attract. Or there just might be something in the mix that makes this a little bit more interesting if you meet someone at an event romantically. But it can also be that maybe you're attending an event for your children if you have them, so maybe a school play or a graduation or something like that around the 21st. Saturn is going to go retrograde in your sign on the 29th. Now, because it's in your 1st house, this is particularly important to you. Saturn retrograde in your 1st house means that you're reflecting on, and you're taking very seriously, your commitments and your responsibilities. Generally speaking, the commitments and responsibilities that you have, particularly to yourself. You might be reflecting on your personal goals. You might be reflecting on your personal relationship to your body, how you're treating your body, if you have exercise goals, health goals, even aesthetic goals that you're working on, Pisces. I think you're reflecting on the hard work and commitment to those. Or you're maybe thinking, okay, I've maybe not worked so hard on this. I maybe need to up it a bit with Saturn. It could also be that maybe you're thinking, I think I've gone a little far on this particular transit. So you're going to be rethinking these personal goals of yours and where you're putting in the hard work and the effort, and where you have set up healthy boundaries with yourself. But maybe, Pisces, considering where those boundaries are actually not healthy boundaries, you're actually just cutting yourself off from people. It's obviously going to look very different for different people, but you might notice where you think you've been setting boundaries, but you've actually just been keeping yourself closed off. So that's something to navigate, Pisces, with that Saturn retrograde, realizing where you have become a locked off fortress or whether you have healthy, loving boundaries in place. Something to figure out as a Piscean. But a couple of things to mention this month as well, Pisces, is that there are some squares between Venus and Mercury in particular, but also the Sun in your 4th house, squaring Neptune in your 1st. There could be some misunderstandings and miscommunication with family. There could be some miscommunication and confusion with family members or surrounding a living situation. You might be feeling a little avoidant. You might be feeling a little bit hard to reach. You might be going through your own kind of spiritual or internal crisis, Pisces, with your ruler at 29 degrees. And you may feel a little bit like misunderstood by members of your family or with your living situation. You could feel a bit lost and confused at times. A lot of it is very much based on illusion, but I think with your ruler at 29 degrees all month, you may be finding that at times you're not so sure if it's your intuition or if it's a delusion. You might not be so sure if you have a healthy level of hope or rose tinted glasses, and you similarly might actually not be sure if you're just running away from things altogether or whether or not you're needing to create some kind of distance. I think with your ruler at 29 degrees, it can sometimes manifest as unusual physical symptoms. It can manifest as feeling your energy levels are a bit up and down. But I think with Neptune, really what you're feeling is maybe a bit challenged when it comes to your intuition and understanding if it is intuition or it is delusion. And that's a very hard thing to figure out. But just be mindful of that. You could be reading somebody in your family completely wrong, or they could be reading you completely wrong, Pisces. You could be having some personal inner moments of crises, and you might not even be so sure why. So always check in with your energy and make sure that you're not, absorbing someone else's stuff is one way to explain this, Pisces, I think. There's a Sun-Mercury conjunction on the 14th in your home and family sector. Look to the 14th as being a day of important news or important connection with your home and your living situation. There might be a conversation comes up that really helps you figure out a family matter or a home or a living situation matter around the 14th. And that is what I have for you, Pisces. I hope you have a great month, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Aries, welcome to June. So Aries, I want to start off with the fact that your ruler Mars is still going to be in your first house for the first 9 days of June. Now the reason I'm mentioning this is because when Mars is in your sign, in terms of energy levels and in terms of starting something new for yourself, this is still a really good time to do so before the 9th. And that's not to say you can't begin anything after the 9th, but when it comes to personal goals, particularly if it's linked to your own personal well-being, your fitness or your appearance or your body or just generally your approach to life or a very personal interest of yours, something that you can begin for you, that is for you, that benefits you, and something that you feel very enthusiastic about, it's still a really good time to use up that energy with Mars being there, as Mars is only in your sign once every 2 years. So I just want to give you a heads up about that before it moves into Taurus. Now it moves into Taurus in the 9th, so it's going to be going through your second house, which energizes both your income and your spending. So with Mars being your ruler, you may be a little bit more determined to make more money for yourself, to pursue financial goals. But just as equally, this can mean that your spending gets ramped up and you find it easier to impulse spend or buy things without thinking too much about it. So just be mindful of that with Mars being in your second house. It's great for entrepreneurship. It's great for pursuing money or pursuing something from, you will receive a financial gain from, but it can also be just as equally that you're spending money that little bit quicker. Now be careful about the 11th. It's not a great day in the cosmos. Mars, your ruler, is going to be squaring Pluto, and this tends to be quite aggressive. This can be violent. It can be frustrating. It can be very angry. And it's happening for you in the sectors surrounding money and values, but also groups and friends. So if a conflict with a friend or a group or within a team was likely to begin around this time, it could go too far, and it might not be a battle that you feel is worth it in the long run. So just be mindful of that day. It's a better time to avoid conflict because it can get quite nasty. It's better to breathe through it. If you're having some differences in opinion with a group of people, maybe you've different opinions on money, maybe you've different opinions around finances, but just be careful not to let things escalate around that square. Now, I want to talk about the third house for you because we have a lot going on there in the month of June. And starting off the bat, we have this Jupiter-Pluto trine on the 2nd. It perfects on the 2nd of June, but you will be feeling it for the first week of June in general. You'll be feeling its influence. And Jupiter trine Pluto tends to be quite transformative when it comes to, particularly for you, our thinking. And that can be that Jupiter is expanding your mindset, and Pluto is thus transforming your vision of the future. So maybe you're getting some information about something and you're thinking, well, actually, this doesn't seem so impossible for the future after all. And so you start making some mindset shifts. And it can also be that perhaps there's some positive connections forming in your neighborhood. Maybe you're making friends with someone in your neighborhood, or connecting to somebody, connecting to a group or a community that is going to be very exciting in the long run for you, and going to feel, like something you're learning and growing with, or people you're learning and growing with. Mercury enters your communication sector on the 3rd and connects with Jupiter on the 4th. Great day for news, great day for giving a speech. There might be some sort of communication coming into you, or you might be making some very impressive communications yourself. You might find it easier to word things right on that day. It can also be that words get exacerbated and perhaps over-exaggerated. But for the most part, this can bring you some positive news, maybe from a sibling, maybe from a neighbor, maybe from someone in the extended family line, or maybe just simply if you are a writer, this is a great day for inspiration. The Sun is conjunct Venus in that sector on the same day as well. So this is a nice time to be engaged with your neighborhood, with your neighbors, or part of some sort of local community effort, or even spending time with siblings and extended family, as I mentioned before. And speaking of which, there is a new moon in that sector on the 6th, which is conjunct Venus. Now, Venus rules your 7th house, so there could be a new romantic connection forming in your neighborhood, or through a friend, or you could meet someone in your everyday commute, or doing an everyday activity, like going to the grocery store or something like that. But it can also just simply be that there is a better relationship forming with you and a sibling, with you and a neighbor, with you and someone that you are associated with at an everyday level. And it can be a wonderful time to begin a writing project, or to begin something to do with communications. So that could be your podcast, that could be a blog, that could be just wanting to start a diary, wanting to journal. And if you were focused on manifesting something, Aries, I would say writing it down or speaking it into existence will be quite positive for you. Just be careful of letting your fears get in the way with the square to Saturn in Pisces. You have a feeling that there might be commitments involved to whatever is beginning that you can't quite see yet. You can feel them, but I think you're willing to make them in the long run. Whatever they may be, you just sort of know with whatever you're beginning that there could be something behind the scenes you're not totally aware of yet. You don't have all the details. That could be possible. Venus and Mercury enter your 4th house on the 17th, and they connect to each other in the same day. So if you're looking to buy anything for your home, or decorate your home, or spend time with your family or your roommates, this is a very, very favorable time to do so. It's going to be better for communication with matters surrounding the home, with family. There might be some positive conversation happening with you and a family member, or surrounding a property matter on the 17th. And the Sun enters your 4th house on the 20th, bringing a lot of focus to your home and your family. As the Sun does rule your 5th house, it might mean that you're more inclined to have fun with your family, go to parties, have parties at home, or something like that, Aries. On the 21st, we have a full moon in your 10th house. This is the first of 2 full moons in your 10th house, which is really highlighting how you're feeling about your career. So you might notice when it comes to either your career or a long-term goal, or just your status, your reputation publicly, you might be considering these themes, and feelings could be coming up about them. You might be a little confused, but fundamentally there's a trine to Mars. So I feel that if you're wanting to make changes professionally, or in terms with a goal, it's either financially motivated or supported with Mars being in your 2nd house, or it's the potential to give you a boost in confidence, or something to build your confidence. So for some of you, you might decide, okay, I want to do this because this will bring me confidence, whether that's running a marathon. I'm just using, obscure goal examples. It doesn't have to be that. It could be climbing a mountain, actually, with it being in Capricorn. So say this has nothing to do with career. It could look like, okay, I want to climb this mountain and it's going to help me raise my confidence, or it's going to help me raise money for this. For some of you, it could be a promotion. For some of you, it could be a career advancement that could actually support you financially much better with the trine to Mars in your second house as well. So pay attention to how you're feeling about your career, because it's going to guide you in a new direction. Full moons tend to bring the energy to the surface so that we know how we feel and what we need to change. And speaking of which, Saturn does rule your 10th house of goals and career and public image, and it's going retrograde from the 29th, stationing retrograde in the 29th in your 12th house. So while you might be reviewing career and your goals generally, you could also be viewing them through the lens of, are you getting enough rest? Are you getting enough alone time? How's your healing journey going? Because with Saturn going through the 12th house, it is very associated astrologically with having a very healing experience or two. It tends to be a time where we go through this review of the harsh lessons of life and how they might have impacted us psychologically or emotionally. It tends to bring up a lot of stuff from the surface. It kind of reminds me of when you ever go for a walk on the beach after a storm and you see how much stuff has been washed up. It's kind of like an emotional version of that. Stuff can come up from beneath the surface that you thought you dealt with and you realized you hadn't. It can also be a time when you're ending things in your life that do not feel sustainable in terms of their commitments, or you feel that they're no longer a mature thing to do. So if you have made some significant endings in your life, Aries, that can be why. And this can be a period of review for you, what you've learned, what you've experienced, and what your levels of dedication and responsibility are when it comes to your healing. So you might decide, okay, I've tried to do this much on my own. Now I want to join a group, or I want to join a community that are focused on these things. Or maybe you're thinking, oh, I actually want to see a therapist to help me with this. You want to, maybe you want to commit to it deeper, or maybe you want to take a bit of time away from it and sort of focus on other things with Saturn going retrograde in your 12th house. One day to point out that might be very interesting from a news perspective is the 14th. You could be hearing something that's very clarifying to you. There could be a letter, there could be a text, there could be a phone call, there could be a conversation that seems to bring you clarity with Sun conjunct Mercury in your 3rd house. There could be a little bit of confusion the following, so there could be a bit of confusion on the 12th. When it comes to communication, Mercury is going to be squaring Saturn. So 14th is the better day for any kind of news or clarity. After that, on the 16th and the 17th, though, Venus and Mercury are going to both square Neptune, which means that those are not times where you should really be signing on the dotted line or trying to make, any kind of legal decision with Mercury being square Neptune. It can just mean that you're not 100% aware. You're not 100% aware of all the details that are in the mix here. A better day for signing anything and committing would be the 26th, when Mercury is trining Saturn. But that is what I have for you, Aries. I hope you have a great month, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Taurus, welcome to June. Hope you're all doing really well. So Taurus, right off the bat, I want to mention Mars is entering your sign on the 9th of June. And when Mars comes around to your 1st house, it tends to be a time where you have a bit more energy, a bit more momentum, a bit more drive to make things happen for yourself, to pursue a personal goal, to pursue a personal objective. Now, it can also mean that you burn the candle at both ends, you don't know your limitations. So be mindful with this particular transit to take time to rest, to take time to yourself, to take time to reflect, decompress, because you can burn the candle at both ends with Mars being in your sign. And I want to warn you of the 11th, when Mars in your sign is going to form a square with Pluto in Aquarius, your 10th house. This could look like a rather painful confrontation with perhaps a parent or an authority figure, someone in a position of power over you, whether that would be someone, whether it be a boss, whether it be a policeman. It could be a case where you find yourself at odds with someone in a position of power. I would say with this particular square, be very careful of pursuing any kind of conflict with someone in a position of power. And if someone is trying to rattle you, it's better to leave them alone. Just let them be. Let them be angry. Remove yourself from the situation, because Mars-Pluto squares have tendencies to escalate in ways that are not productive. They're actually just quite destructive. Obviously, in terms of a transit, there can be both good and bad. So this could be a day where you actually decide, you really want to work on anger management, or you want to work personally on addressing some triggers surrounding a parent, or, if you've dealt with an angry authority figure, you might want to work on that privately with yourself. But it is not a good day to get involved in any kind of confrontation. So I just want to leave that with you. Mars obviously will as well in Taurus trigger the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction of April, but not until July. So we'll talk about that when it comes up. But for the most part, Mars in your sign is pretty dandy. So don't worry about that. But just on the 11th, pay extra attention to sort of laying low. With your sign being involved outside, keep your head below the parapet and don't allow anyone to bait you into a confrontation. Taurus. So, the good news. Your second house, you're the sign associated with the second house, which means that it tends to align quite a lot with your values. This is to do with financial security, it's to do with your income, the money that you make, but also the money that you spend and the material possessions that you have. So Jupiter going through the second, now that Jupiter is in Gemini, and this is the first Gemini season with the Jupiter co-presence, it tends to bring a lot when it comes to money, when it comes to gifts, when it comes to possessions. This could be a time where you start making more money. This can be a time when you get a raise, you get a promotion, you get a bonus, you find yourself more doing better financially. But just as a mindfulness exercise, make sure that you're putting some of that money away, or else you won't see it by the end, because it as equally can ramp up your spending. But there's a lot happening. So there's a new moon on the 6th of June, which could bring a new way of making money into your life. Because it's Gemini, Taurus, it could be a couple of ways of making money. It could be two different options. It could be two different ways of gaining an income, two different income sources for some of you. But for others of you, it could just be new money. Maybe you're getting a new job and that's bringing you new finances. Maybe you're making money through a new service. It is conjunct Venus as well, and Venus is your ruler. So I feel that this is something that is unique to you, something that you're good at, something that is a skill of yours, a personal goal of yours. And I do think this is positive from a financial standpoint. With the square to Saturn, it is asking you, even if it doesn't feel, so abundant in the moment, but it is asking you to think about abundance for the future. So making sure that you are putting some of that money away, or you have a savings plan, or you say you needed insurance or something like that. The square to Saturn is saying, I know it's not, so luxurious, but can you save some of this with this new financial beginning? If there's nothing that's coming up, it's a great time to set a financial intention. I do remember whenever I first started experimenting with that, I remember when there was a new moon in my second house, I wrote a really obscure figure, a very obscure financial amount, down to the pennies. And I'll never forget 6 months later getting a tax rebate with that exact amount and just finding it to be the weirdest thing in the world. So maybe you want to try something like that. You want to manifest a specific amount of money and see where you are 6 months down the line. It still makes me laugh thinking about it. One of the situations where you think, well, if I had known this was going to work, I'd have asked for more. But anyway, this is going to be a month with a lot of focus on your finances. So if you are looking to make more money, this is a great month for an opportunity to come in, for, you know, a new way of making money to begin, a new financial source to appear. There seems to be a lot to do with your finances this month. There could be good news on the 4th with Mercury, Jupiter conjunct in your second house and the Sun and your ruler Venus conjunct in your second house. So it feels like if it's not something financially, you could be getting a gift, or you could be feeling exceptionally confident on the 4th as well, and maybe attracting a lot of different opportunities, Taurus. We have activity occurring in your 3rd house in the second half of the month. Venus and Mercury enter your 3rd house on the 17th and connect together on the 17th. And this is great from a communication standpoint, through enjoying your local neighborhood, having pleasant experiences with neighbors, people that you see on your commute. This could be a time where maybe some of you are getting a car, or there is something, you know, a positive journey coming up, a positive road trip. You're taking short trips and you're finding them extra enjoyable, or you're just finding as you're out and about, you're getting on better with people you see locally and having nice experiences with people you see locally. Say you go to your local baker and they give you something for free, or you just notice you're in the supermarket and everyone's smiling at you. It can be things like that. It can be better relationships with siblings if you have them, neighbours, as I said, and extended family as well, particularly when the Sun enters Cancer on the 20th. As the Sun rules your 4th house, you may be spending more time at home with siblings or at your siblings' house, Taurus. We have a full moon coming up in Capricorn for you, which is your 9th house. So this may be a time where you're traveling. You could be taking a trip, or as this is the first of 2 full moons in your 9th house, you might be actually traveling a bit between June and July with the full moon. This might be that you're realizing you want to travel, or you want to go somewhere specific. With the trine to Mars in your 1st house, I feel like you may be inspired under this full moon to take action on, you know, planning a trip, going somewhere, maybe going somewhere solo. But it can also be nothing to do with travel. It can be everything to do with expanding your mindset, learning, taking a course, studying something new. Feeling very in touch with the universe, God, source, whatever it is that you want to call it. Not being so sure with the square to Neptune if you're, you know, intuitive or deluded. That can be a theme this month. Not everybody is so sure. But this full moon can definitely be a time where themes of travel and exploration come up for you to consider, Taurus. We do have a Saturn retrograde coming up this month as well. Saturn is stationing retrograde on the 29th. And it's retrograding in your 11th house. So when it comes to your friendships, this can mean that you are perhaps catching up with friends you haven't seen in a while, seeing friends you haven't seen in a while. This can be that you are reconsidering or reassessing some friendships. It might also be if you're part of some kind of group, some sort of alliance, some sort of community, you might be reassessing your commitment to it or your involvement in it. You know, you might be thinking, is this really for me? With Saturn ruling your 9th house, you might think, do these people align with my ideals, my beliefs? You're reconsidering your commitments to friends or groups, or you're realizing if, you know, maybe friends aren't as committed to you as you hoped they were, or you thought they were. You might be more socially aware and just reconsidering and reinvestigating your impact socially. Taurus, you could be really thinking about these things. So that is something to consider with Saturn going retrograde. It's all about reassessing our commitments and our responsibilities, where we have been too lax or whether we have been giving too much. It's where we set boundaries, and you might have to set some boundaries when it comes to a community you're a part of or friendships that you have as well, Taurus. One day that might be a little difficult for you is the 8th, when Venus, your ruler, is squaring Saturn. Venus is in your 2nd house, squaring Saturn in your 11th. There could be a little bit of a clash with friends surrounding maybe money, or you might be feeling a little bit, say you wanted to attend an event with friends, but you just financially can't do it at the moment. There could be something like that leaving you to feeling a little bit isolated, or it could be that maybe you're in a group of people and you're not feeling so confident, but that day could be a little bit chilly, a little bit cold when it comes to friendship, Taurus. But I do think for the most part this month has a lot of positive energy, and with the 2nd house you can certainly grow your wealth, your finances, get your financial affairs in order, but it can also be that you're simply feeling more confident and more aware of your worth. That is what I have for you, Taurus, and I'll talk to you soon.